There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
Let me drive. I will make a fool out of you.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy, lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up? Are you ready to make more money in 1 year than your father made in his whole life? Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
But hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? Come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing is important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up a show.
Fine. Then let's race.
Hi, I'm Tom Ingram and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Jacques Villeneuve, you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Bruno Senna, you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Chris Hoy and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Landon Norris and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Bienvenue, mesdames et messieurs, and welcome to the 2019 IAME Euro Series, kicking off this weekend at Karting de Fagnes in Mariembourg in Belgium. The sun is out, the sky is blue with a little bit of blustery winds and clouds overhead, and it is an absolutely bone-dry, sunny circuit ready for timed qualifying in the Mini, Junior, Senior and Shifter X30 categories. Jake Sanson here from the start-finish line in my commentary box position overlooking Turn 1. And it is going to be an absolutely sensational day's qualifying after a very competitive set of qualifying practice sessions from earlier on. Don't forget, of course, all of you sitting trackside here at IAME Euro Series in Belgium. For everybody here at the circuit in Mariembourg, we have a social gathering this evening at 6 p.m. at the cafeteria. So anybody from drivers, from team members, mechanics, sponsors, parents, you're all invited to our drinks gathering this evening at 6 o'clock. After time qualifying upstairs in the cafeteria. Do please make sure you join us. You are all very welcome indeed. We've got some amazing qualifying sessions to come here from all of the categories ahead of what should be some spectacular races over the course of the weekend. We will have plenty of great racing from all of the drivers as the weekend develops. There are 10 heats over the course of tomorrow's race action in each of the major sessions. So we will have 10 races from the seniors, and we will have 3 from the super shifters and the minis, as well as 6 from the juniors, giving us a grand total of 22 heats in the build-up over the course of tomorrow. So there'll be 22 races tomorrow ahead of 11 races on Sunday, which will kickstart an amazing spectacle, the 2019 IAME Euro Series Championship. It is the 3rd season of the category in its full championship status and the 4th year that the IAME X30 Challenge has been run in mainland Europe, and it is the first of 4 weekends. We start here in Mariembourg before we head over to the second round of the championship at Castelletto at Siete Larghe in Italy. And then, of course, after that, we head to Wackersdorf in Germany, finishing up at Salbris in France. A truly continental, international championship, not just for the Europeans, but they've come from far and wide to compete, even as far and away as Asia, Australasia, and the Americas, as well as in Africa. They have come from far and wide over the last few seasons, and it really is truly the best of the best in each of the categories. We will start our timed qualifying practice today with the mini category. It has been very competitive in the first 2 sessions, with several drivers who know the circuit, of course, having been the ones to set the initial pace here this weekend. But across the 2 practice sessions, we have seen some really good performances, some standout efforts from the drivers. In the first non-qualifying practice session from earlier on, it was René Lammers for the PDB racing team who set the early pace with a 62.374 second lap, just a whisker in front of the IAME Winter Cup winner from back in February, Freddie Slater, in front of the Spaniard Edu Robinson. And then we have Sebastiano Pavan, Leo Robinson, and Lucas Flusha were there in the top 6 from the earlier session. In the second non-qualifying practice session just after the lunchtime, it was the Team Driver Racing Kart SDAR drivers who were on song in the Kart Republic chassis. It was Sebastiano Pavan who drew first blood in front of Panama's Sebastian NG, who is going very fast indeed around this circuit. There were just 4 thousandths of a second between them in the earlier time practice, ahead of Freddie Slater, Guillermo Delgado, Leo Robinson, and the man who was originally fastest in the session, and that, of course, is Rene Lammers. The drivers head out onto the circuit now as they go for their 7 minutes of timed qualifying. And it is going to be very competitive indeed in X30 Mini. We're expecting a pole position time of around 62.4 seconds. Might even be able to go a little bit faster than that. They've had 24 minutes track time already today in which to set some good times, but they only have 7 in which to get their ultimate qualifying time. 30 drivers from all over the world have travelled to be here. We have them from here, of course, in Belgium. There's a very strong local contingent, the likes of Patrice Kovalevski, Thomas Strauven, Thibaut Jalad, Clement Autran, and Thibaut Remakers, as well as Arthur Vassot and Niels Lelor, all of whom have come from their native Belgium, various parts of the world. Oh dear, looks as though we've had an accident already in timed qualifying, but the driver in question has been able to get going again. So just a couple of the drivers just needing to be a little bit alert on their outlap. I was just mentioning we've had the local contingent of drivers, but they have come from all over the world to be here, from Great Britain, from Italy, from Holland, from Spain, from Denmark, from Panama, and then, of course, from the Philippines, as well as from Portugal. They have come all over Europe and even further afield as well to be here and to compete at the sharp end of the field. And it's going to be very entertaining to see what the drivers do. A little bit of a hiccup there earlier on from that particular timed run on their outlap, but it now looks as though all of the drivers are getting themselves up to speed. We've had 2 fastest drivers from the first 2 sessions. It was Rene Lammers who was fastest in non-qualifying 1. And then in the second practice session, it was Sebastiano Pavan, the Italian, who has been at the top of the session. Expect a pole position time of about 62.5 as the drivers are getting themselves dialed in and are starting to pound in some speed. The fastest in the first sector at the moment is Freddie Slater, who has done an 11.6 second first sector. So he is purple in sector 1. The drivers continuing on their first flying lap. We're going to see a proper indication as to who is on the early pace here at Mariembourg, as the drivers are already getting themselves up to the line. So the first flying laps are coming in, and we'll get a bit of an understanding. Sebastiano Pavan has gone a 64.0. He will go a lot faster than that as the time qualifying progresses, but it will be interesting to see who's able to get a decent lap out of the blocks. The local boys are doing quite well early on. Thibaut Remakers and Thomas Stravan are in the top 5. Sacha Van Pad Posch has come through in the top 5. So Sacha Van Pad Bosch is there in 4th position just behind Rene Lammers. Freddie Slater has come up to the top, though, on a 63.0. That's a full 0.6 of a second, nearly faster than Leo Robinson. Leo Robinson, the youngster from Henley-on-Thames in Great Britain. And this is his next natural progression as a racing driver. Bambino champion, of course, from back in 2016, and has stepped into the mini category in Europe very quickly indeed. Was on the podium, of course, at Valencia in our Winter Cup Challenge back in February. So he's already been very fast out of the blocks in the mini category. But there's plenty of drivers who will want to get a strong lap in. Sebastian NG has gone second fastest on his second flying lap in front of Sacha Van Pad Bosch. And then it is Sebastiano Pavan from Thibaut Remakers, who's just come up into P5. Zico Hopkins-Collis, the Australian, has launched himself up into second place. He's based in the United Kingdom these days, but he is Australian-born. And so Zico Hopkins-Collis putting in a very strong challenge there. William Go, the Filipino driver, has gone up into 3rd place now, with Edu Robinson and Freddie Slater still on the pace at the front end. But it's definitely the 2 teammates, Freddie Slater and Edu Robinson, who are the sharpest out of the blocks at the moment. Edu Robinson, based in Spain these days, of course. But Edu Robinson obviously wanting to have a very strong charge to his season. But let's see how Freddie Slater does at the top end of the field. So far, so good after his performance at Valencia. And he has been the playmaker, the number 927, looking very much the man to bag another potential pole position. He did a very good job in Valencia, but there's many drivers who could take it away. The 930, Sebastian NG, goes up to first position now on a 103.01 in front of Slater, Van Pad Bosch, Robinson, Pavan, Alfie Slater, Clement Outran, Zico Hopkins-Collis, William Go and Thomas Travan in the top 10. I'm keeping an eye as well on the Spaniard Paul Cayos, who's been very quick all weekend and looks like he could be a strong contender for the top 6. Louis Leveau's gone up into the top 10. He's another one to watch as Guillermo Delgado goes up to second place, just a whisker slower than Freddie Slater, who's now got his time to a 62.621. So Guillermo Delgado has come up to second place in front of Sebastian Ng, then Sascha Van Pad Bosch, Edu Robinson. Paul Cayos is now 6th, in fact. Sebastiano Pavan and Alfie Slater in the top 10. Then Leo Robinson and Dylan Visser, the Dutchman. He's another one to keep a watch on this weekend. Dylan Visser going much faster in this qualifying session than he was in the non-qualifying practice. He had some difficulties, I'm told, and we've had a spinner off the track. Now, I'm not entirely sure who that is that's gone in the middle section of the circuit, but we have had a spin, driver facing the wrong way, and I think buried in the grass off the far side. Patrice Kovalevsky, by the way, the local driver, has not been able to set a competitive time. Not entirely sure what is wrong with the Belgian, but unfortunately, Patrice Kovalevsky definitely in some dire straits and has not been able to get a competitive lap time from this session. A minute to go, and Freddie Slater is still the pole sitter on a 62.621. Guillermo Delgado is there in second position. Looks like the Fusion Trio are working in formation to get a fast lap in. But Freddie Slater from Guillermo Delgado and Sebastian Ng, the Panama racer, is there in third position in front of Sascha Van Pad Bosch, Sebastiano Pavan, Paul Cayos, Edu Robinson, Alfie Slater, Clement Outran, and Leo Robinson in the top 10 now, just a whisker in front of Dylan Visser and Louis Leveau. Then it is Zico Hopkins-Collis and William Go. Thomas Stravan is in 15th in front of the Spaniard Bogdan Ianodbri. And incredibly, they are all covered, the 16 men, by less than a second. That is absolutely incredible and a very strong start to this weekend. In 17th is René Lammers. Then it is Thibaut Jalad. Thibaut Romakers is there in 19th in front of Henk Junior Vuik. Julian Jägers is 21st in front of the Portuguese racer Maria Germano Nito. Arthur Vassort is in 23rd in front of Lucas Flusha. And then it is Rodrigo Seabra, Adrian Ferrer and Luna Flusha from Freddie Housley. Then Nils Lalor and Patrice Kovalevsky. The checkered flag is out, so it's the last chance for all of these drivers. It's not going to be faster for Freddie Slater on a 62.621. Can anybody beat him? Guillermo Delgado is second. Up to third has come René Lammers. Paul Cayos is up to fourth place now as well. And there's yellow flags in the middle section of the circuit for the stricken cart in the middle of the course, so I'm not sure we're going to get much of an improvement from many drivers. Lucas Flusha, though, has managed to pop up into 13th place. A much better run from him, considering he was in the top 6 in the early part of the session. A difficult qualifying session for him on the Praga España kart. Sebastian Ng comes through. It's going to be Sascha Van Pad Bosch in 5th place from Sebastiano Pavan. Sebastian Ng is 7th from Edu Robinson and Clement Outran. And then it is Leo Robinson in 10th position in front of Alfie Slater and Zico Hopkins-Collis, Lucas Flusha and Thomas Stravan. Louis Leveau, well, up to 8th place has come William Go, the Filipino driver. So he's managed to get a decent last time in. And the driver who spun out, I'm just trying to see who it was that we didn't get a fast time from. I think it's one of the drivers for the Alonso chassis. I think it is the 918 potentially. That looks to me like it could be Bogdan Ianodbria. No, sorry, it is Maria Germano Nito. Maria Germano Nito, unfortunately, the Portuguese racer, she has rather sadly spun during the qualifying session. I think that is up at turn, well, it's in between 5 and 6 on the straight there, so she must have got a difficult exit out of turn 5 and spun the kart, and that's why she's down in 24th. Hopefully she'll be able to get a much better run from the races. But here is the assessment from qualifying practice for X30 Minis. It's Freddie Slater who bags the pole position, so hopefully we'll be able to talk to him a little bit later on in the media room later. Freddie Slater from Guillermo Delgado and René Lammers. And then it is Paul Cayos, Sascha Van Pad Bosch and Sebastiano Pavan from Sebastian Ng, William Go, and then Leo and Edu Robinson. No relation, just a coincidence that they happen to be teammates with the same surname. Clement Outran and Alfie Slater. He is the brother of Freddie. Zico Hopkins-Collis and Lucas Flusha. Then Thomas Stravan and Louis Leveau, Adrian Ferrer and Dylan Visser. And then it is Bogdan Ianodbria and Thibaut Ramakers. and those 20 are covered by less than a second. Thibaut Gellard and Julian Jägers are 21st and 22nd from Henk Junior Voigt and Maria Gemanonito. Rodrigo Seabra, the Wolf, is 25th from Arto Vazot, and then it is Luna Fluscher, Freddie Housley, Nils Lalor, and Patrice Kovalevsky. And incredibly, most of the field are covered by just about 2 seconds. Patrice Kovalevsky didn't really get to do a flying lap due to some technical problems. But what a grid we have got for the 2019 season. Nearly 30 drivers covered by 2 seconds in the field. And that is a much more competitive field even than we saw in 2018. And it was pretty frenetic at times. So I think the 2019 IAME Euro Series X30 Mini category is going to be the best it has ever been in 2019. We are so excited about how the racing is going to go. So that is the battle from the X30 Minis. We now move on to the next brigade of drivers, and that is the juniors. They are separated into 2 categories for this qualifying session. They have basically been separated into different groups. So just to give you an idea of the participants, we'll talk you through each group in a moment. From the practice sessions we had earlier on, though, they were separated by odd numbers and even numbers. So in qualifying practice 1, non-qualifying practice 1, I should say, it was Josh Rowledge who was the fastest of all in that particular session of the odd-numbered drivers. And he was a fraction of a second faster than Oliver Behrman, with Aaron Walker and Vilgot Edqvist ahead of Chris Harnan and Ollie Pilker. And that was how it went in the first session, a quarter of a second between those guys. The even numbers then came out, and it was Cian Shields who topped the timesheets by nearly a quarter of a second on his own in front of Ruben Volt. And then Joe Taylor and Luca Leistra, the new member of the RS Schumacher racing team. Then Tom Leben and Jason Leung, who were there in the top 6. Then they had a second session. The odd-number drivers saw Ollie Pilker go fastest of all. The pole has been absolutely mega in recent weeks. Josh Rowledge, Oliver Behrman and Aaron Walker, all within a tenth of him. Vilgot Edqvist and Herodind Nerudini, the Albanian who is based in Germany these days, is there in the top 6. So really exciting to see the drivers working hard in that practice session. From the even session, it was Ruben Volt who went fastest of all, the Estonian, just a whisker in front of Joe Taylor. From Luca Leistra and Cian Shields, again that man up at the sharp end, the Flying Scotsman. Tom Leben and Jason Young are there in the top 6. So watch out for the Canadian. He's going to be a very strong competitor, Jason Young, for KR Sport. Since he joined that team, he's been going faster and faster and could be the next big thing from Canada since the days of Mr. Hinchtown, of course, who is the IndyCar Series driver. The grid is now split into 2 practice session groups. And it'll be the following drivers who will go up for qualifying practice 1. That is Zach Ripley, Maximus Meyer, Tom Leben, Robin Pagnat, Angelo Melli, Aaron Reshepi, Freddie Spindlow, Kimi Abraham, Patrick Enoch, Oliver Behrman, Chris Harnan, Aaron Walker, Edward Pearson, Joe Taylor, Noah Maton, Francois Delatti, Harvey Ryby, Luca Leistra, Olivan Veit, Vigor Hjorvard, Matteo Rubio Luengo, Victor Obajanek, Miguel Perro, William Nicolou, Luis Delbart, Alex Lee, Danny Prinz, and Vilgot Edqvist. So those are the drivers that are going to make it out for the first of our qualifying practice series for the juniors. And there's quite a few new faces for this 2019 season. And again, they have travelled far and wide to be here, from Britain, from Spain, from France, from Sweden, from Estonia, from the Netherlands, even as far afield as the United States of America in Matteo Rubio Luengo's case. The Pole Victor Obajanek is here as well. And of course, there's plenty of local talent. In this group of drivers alone, the Belgian contingent is strong, from the likes of Angelo Melli, Kimi Abraham, who steps up from Minis last year, Noah Maton, Luca Leistra, who returns in his new fold as the RS Schumacher driver. And then we have Olivan Veit, as well as Lois Delbar, who was very strong over the course of last year. He's on the Cosmic chassis under the 3DK management banner. And it will be really exciting to see how the locals will go compared to the familiar faces from the sharp end of the field from juniors. But the form book is changed completely for 2019. And here we should see some really good progression. But of the local talent, you want to keep an eye on 2 men in particular, as far as I'm concerned. Kimi Abraham, who's adapted to the challenge of juniors very well for the Demo Kart squad, and has adapted to this new challenge of a junior category very well. He's been quick all weekend. And Luca Leistra, in particular, the RS Schumacher chassis, which, of course, is based very much on the Praga. It's basically based on the Praga chassis. But it's great to see this new brand working its magic around the circuits of Europe and the world. And it's very similar, in fact, the RS Schumacher brand kart. In the similar manner, it's basically an offshoot and a development from the Praga brand in a very similar manner to the way that the Ricciardo and Kubica brands are offshoots of the Birolart brand. So it's all very much under the same banner, but it's great to see the RS Schumacher brand making its progress. But there's plenty of great teams out here. Evolution may have a dark horse for pole position in their man Zach Ripley, who has to be said, he's a bit of a qualifying specialist. He knows how to pull a fast lap out of the bag, and he's been in some very strong positions over the years as Zach Ripley with this particular team. He feels very settled and very strong. He's a loyal driver, very quick indeed, and his highest performance over the course of qualifying has been an outright pole position, which he bagged last year at Wackersdorf, so he definitely knows how to go faster than everybody else in the field. And this is one that you definitely need to keep an eye on. He is fast and very feisty indeed, and he is going to be the lowest seed number to head out onto the circuit, but there's plenty of strong, talented racers to head out there with him. Picking a driver from this group to go for pole position is going to be tough because there's lots of talent that could do it. Maximus Meyer, who's been here since his days in Mini, of course, back in 2017, and is one of the most established faces of the paddock, has been here very nearly since day one. And it's great to see him continuing his challenge as a junior. Did very well last year and is one of the favourites coming into this season. Freddie Spindlow keeps getting faster and faster for KR Sport. Enon Reshepi was a midfielder last year. He's a front runner this year. There's no doubt about that one. But after the excitement from Valencia, a lot of people are touting Oliver Behrman as a potential European champion. He was so strong in Valencia last month, and he is definitely going to be one to watch. But don't count out the Coles Racing team. They've got a lot of talented drivers in the mix this time. Chris Harnan, Ed Pearson, Joe Taylor, and Alex Lee, all in this group for the Coles Racing squad, so they're definitely going to be a team to watch out for. And Tom Leben, under the Mark Litchfield Racing banner, has been very competitive. He's obviously got one of the top British karting racers from the last 20 years, keeping an eye on him. So there's plenty of spice and action to come from this qualifying session. Also keep an eye on a couple of the drivers from Piers Sexton Racing in this particular grid. Harvey Ryby, one of the top Mini X30 drivers last year back in Great Britain. His first venture into Europe this season, and his teammate, the American Matteo Rubio Luengo, is going to be a very strong opposition to many of the drivers in the field, despite being a rookie at IAME Euro Series level. But a lot of people will be watching for the FA Racing España driver, Miguel Pero Lozoraga. He was one of the top minis last year, and he is easily one of the most talented and highly rated Spaniards of recent years. He was a great racer in minis last year, won more races than any other driver in the mini category. Sadly for him, he did most of that in the heats, in the build-up to the pre-finals and finals, when things would sadly go astray. But you can't deny his overall speed. He's jumped into juniors and been in the top 6 pretty much ever since, without really falling away in terms of speed. So he's one to watch, of course. And as the drivers are preparing for more action from this second timed qualifying session this afternoon, there'll be plenty more action from them. It's going to be getting underway very shortly indeed for the drivers, as they will wait until the signal, which will be coming within a couple of minutes' time. Lots of great racers in the junior category. You'll hear from the second group a little bit later on. The quality of the field this time is very, very exceptional indeed. And we've got some new faces this year, some new talent that has stepped up into the junior brigade, and it's a big welcome to them. The likes of Francois Delatti for Ideal Kart. He's doing very well. Oliver Veit, of course, is the first time for him in the championship. Also for the pole privateer on the Cosmic chassis, Viktor Oberjanek is definitely going to be wanting to make good progress through the weekend. Danny Prins for the Dimes Racing team is looking likely to be their latest top tip, and it's great to see him making a good effort. Alex Lee has been very strong in Great Britain, but has not really made the adaptation to Europe until now, and he's making great strides. And Strawberry Racing's new Swedish challenge, Wilgert Edqvist, looked frighteningly fast at times through the weekend in Valencia, so he's going to be a very competitive racer this time out here in the Mariembourg season opener. So, of course, to all those who are listening trackside, don't forget that at 6 p.m. tonight, we are having a social gathering upstairs in the cafeteria. Everybody is welcome, from the staff members to the marshals to the officials to the teams, the drivers, sponsors, parents, you name it. You're all welcome at 6 o'clock in the cafeteria upstairs. It's going to be a very nice gathering, plenty of people to mingle with and to chat to, and it's a great opportunity to welcome you to the IAME European Series for what promises to be 4 weekends of fantastic racing from the world's best. We really have got the best talents from all over the world in this particular category. It may be a European series, but they really have attracted some amazing names for 2019. And just in this one group, we've got absolutely sensational drivers to talk about. Your Zach Ripley's, your Max Myers, Tom Lebens, Freddie Spindlow's, Kimi Abraham, very strong here on home soil, of course. Behrman, Walker, Harnan, Pearson, Taylor. Delati looks like he could be a bit of a dark horse. Luca Leistra was very fast here last year. Viggo Hjorvard and Wiggo Edvist, the two Swedes, they'll be very good indeed to watch. Miguel Pedro de Zaraga has to be a factor for pole position, but the Brits are obviously going to be wanting to go for broke straight away. If you want to pick a one-off pole position sitter just from this one group, you have to say the favourite could be Oliver Behrman. We've started the time countdown for the session, and just as they did in Valencia, nobody is heading straight out onto the circuit, unlike the Minis, where the Minis, they want as much track time as possible. They literally storm out of the blocks as the minutes start to tick away. The Juniors, they actually caught themselves out a little bit in one of the qualifying groups in Valencia because they waited and waited to see who blinked first, and they wasted about 2.5 minutes of the session just waiting to see who blinked first. Because, of course, with the heat of the track, I mean, it's not the hottest day in history, but it's certainly quite warm now compared to what it was this morning. It was at freezing point this morning in about 7 o'clock in the morning, but now it's about 17 degrees, so the track temperature is going to be about 21. Now drivers have started to peel out onto the circuit, the likes of Patrick Enoch, Viggo Hjorvard, and who is the other one? Angelo Melli have gone out onto the circuit. They obviously want to stretch their wheels and get out of the circuit for a first run. Nobody else joins them until about, at least half a minute later, and then it is the Ralf Schumacher kart of Luca Leistra, followed by the 118 of Danny Prins, the Dimes Racing driver, who comes out onto the circuit. So a few drivers just tentatively waiting for their moment. Viggo Hjorvard with the Ricciardo chassis, very distinctive in its blue and white colours as it runs around the circuit. So we'll see plenty of great racers battling away for supremacy in this timed qualifying session here at the IAME Euro Series in Mariembourg. We'll see plenty of magnificent race action from the junior class. Who else going out onto the circuit? That is the 70. That is Francois Delati from France. He heads out onto the circuit on the Cosmic chassis. And then it's going to basically be a waiting game to see how many drivers peel out onto the circuit altogether. Here they all come. So now they're coming in a great swarm, led out, interestingly, by Oliver Behrman, the man who was original pole position in Valencia. Oh, sorry, Aaron Reshepi, his teammate, was original pole position in Valencia, but he then ran away and basically blistered the meeting in Valencia, winning every race he started. And it was great to see him take the IAME Valencia Winter Cup back to Chelmsford in Essex in Great Britain. But now he is going to be fighting off another train of karts as they battle for pole position here at Mariembourg. Some of the drivers on this junior grid love this circuit. Others find it incredibly frustrating. And that always gives us a really nice balance for this qualifying session. 4 minutes left on this qualifying session, and the drivers are only just now out on the circuit, starting to build up the speed and pump in those laps. It's always very difficult to judge who is going to be at the sharp end. But Luca Leistra is going to be one of the first to set a competitive lap time. Viggo Hjorvard has gone round in a 59.1. I'm fairly sure that's going to be beaten based on the practice times that we saw from earlier on. Of course, in X30 Junior, we saw a very fast lap from earlier, a 56.8 from Josh Rowledge, a 56.6 came in from Cian Shields, and that emerges still as the fastest time set all weekend. Cian Shields, the fastest man in juniors thus far, but that was in the earlier practice session. We'll have to wait and see what happens in this particular timed session for qualifying. At the moment, it is Danny Prins on a 58.773, the Dutchman, who has gone out and been faster than anybody else. But the other drivers out there are all now looking for a decent qualifying lap. And you've got to get a decent balance here at Mariembourg between good track position and good slipstreaming. It's not easy to get this sort of thing nailed up to the mast, especially when you've got 30 drivers out there nearly battling away for that pole position. Yellow flags because we've had somebody come off the circuit very briefly at the S's just after Sector 2. Fortunately, they have managed to get going again. But that was a little bit of a hiccup as the drivers are now in the slipstream trying to bid for pole position. And now we're going to get the first seriously competitive lap times come through. Viggo Hjorvard is now overtaken in the standings as Danny Prins goes 57.992. The first flying lap for Noah Maton is the fastest from the other group of drivers in the train. So Noah Maton is second from Viggo Hjorvard and Luca Leistra. Then Oliver Behrman, Joe Taylor, Patrick Enoch, Chris Harnan, and then Freddie Spindlow, Alex Lee, Tom Leben, Edward Pearson, William Nicolou, and then Aaron Reshepi, Wigot Edqvist, Francois Delatti, Max Meyer, Kimi Abraham, and Victor Obajanek ahead of Aaron Walker, Harvey Ryby, and Lois Delbar. Francois Delatti comes up to the top 6 with that lap. Has just gone a 58.485. Now, the time they want to beat to be the fastest of all this weekend is Cian Shields' time of 56.6. Nobody's been as fast as that all weekend, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do when he comes out for his qualifying practice session later. Here come the seriously competitive lap times as Behrman goes fastest, then Spindlow, then Taylor, now Vilgot Edqvist. So the Swede has gone to the top on a 57.438. The Strawberry Racing driver is definitely going to be a contender for pole position today. The Swede loves a circuit like this one. It suits his driving style down to the bone. And he's going to be very quick already in a good mix and squabble of drivers. Vilgot Edqvist currently chasing down the 107, I think that is, of William Nicolou, who is close enough to be in the draft, but not close enough that it's going to impede the lap at the moment. So Vilgot Edqvist has definitely put himself into the perfect space around this Mariembourg circuit to get the fast qualifying lap in. Another driver in trouble, though, is the Spaniard. Miguel Pedro Lozaraga has set one lap and then comes straight back into the pits. He's got a problem in qualifying. And I have a very bad feeling that he is going to be dead last in the session unless he can get out there and set another lap, which he cannot in time to improve his position. Now the times continue. Vilgot Edqvist has improved. So has Joe Taylor to second. Zach Ripley now third. From Chris Harnan up to fifth comes Aaron Walker ahead of Tom Leben and Oliver Behrman. Then Freddie Spindlow and Ed Pearson. Aaron Reshepi is 10th from Noah Maton and Max Meyer. Then Viggo Hjorvard and Patrick Enoch from Alex Lee, Lois Delbar and Danny Prins. With William Nicolou, Oliver Veit and Camille Abraham next up. And then it's Luca Leistra from Robin Pagnat, Francois Delatti, Victor Obajanek, then Harvey Ryby, Matteo Ribbioluengo, and the two men who have brought it into the pits, Angelo Melli, who's not going to get any more from his kart in this session, and Miguel Pedro Zaraga, who sadly will remain at the back of the field. That is a devastating end for the Spaniard, but we'll see fireworks from him in tomorrow's heats then. The checkered flag is coming out onto the circuit now as the qualifying session officially ends in QP Series 1 for the X30 Juniors. Is anybody going to go faster than Edqvist's time of 57.0? There's at least 4 tenths to find, as proved this morning by Cian Shields. The top 5 have all come through. No improvement of positions. Aaron Walker set to go second fastest. Aaron Walker goes to the front row of this group. Absolutely terrific from him on the last lap. Just 0.063 away. Vilgot Edqvist in front of Aaron Walker, who was so brilliant in the Spanish series a week before Valencia. We wondered if that was just a flash in the pan. We can tell you now, it is not. Aaron Walker, genuinely fast on the strawberry kart, and he is right there in second. So Vilgot Edqvist and Aaron Walker make it a strawberry 1-2 from qualifying practice series 1. Then Joe Taylor and Zach Ripley, Freddie Spindlow and Chris Harnan. Then it's Tom Leben, Oliver Behrman, Alex Lee, and Max Meyer rounding out the top 10. Then it's Ed Pearson and Aaron Reshepi, Noah Maton and Lois Delbar, the two Belgians in front of their countryman Kimi Abraham and the Dutchman Danny Prins. Then America's Matteo Ribbioluengo, Harvey Ryby, William Nicolou, and Oliver Veit. And then it is Viggo Hjorvard from Patrick Enoch, Francois Delatti and Luca Leistra, Robin Pagnat and Victor Obajanek. And then, sadly, 2 drivers with all sorts of difficulties through the session. Sadly, Angelo Melli, the Belgian, and the Spaniard Miguel Pedro Lozaraga, who literally did 1 lap and brought it straight back into the pits with mechanical problems. A real shame for young Miguel, who will be devastated to drop to the back of the field. And normally, the quite happy and laid back, very chilled, relaxed, and very smiley young Spaniard is going to be a very different picture for the rest of the day. Hopefully he can take away the positives from the team. They'll have some good data to go over, and no doubt ready for the second session. We will continue to pursue, but from his point of view, he's going to have to go away, and obviously hope that there's going to be more good speed to come from the drivers a little bit later on. So obviously we're now going to have a bit of a challenge for the drivers as they battle away for Junior Group 2. The practice session is going to be a very competitive one. And obviously this Mariembourg circuit really does lend itself to the smoother, more technical race drivers. You're going to see some really exciting challenges. But let's go through the field from qualifying practice series 1 in some detail. It is the Swede Vilgot Edqvist who is the fastest of all from that group, and he's done a 57.054. He was the fastest of all, only in the third session, but strong enough consistency together from the lap to be fastest of all. Aaron Walker was the fastest of all in the first sector, but he is second in the standings. Fastest of all in the second sector was Joe Taylor, and he is third in the qualifying session. So that proves that we're going to have a very dynamic and very balanced spectacle from the X30 juniors. Zach Ripley was there in P4 from Freddie Spindlow and Chris Harnan. Tom Leben in 7th position in front of Oliver Behrman, and then Alex Lee and Max Meyer in that top 10. Ed Pearson and Aaron Reshepi, Noah Maton and Luis Delbar, Kimi Abraham and Danny Prinz in the 15th and 16th positions. Then it's the American Mateo Rubio Luengo in front of Harvey Ryby, and rounding out the top 20 is William Nicolou and Olivan Veit. Then it is Viggo Hjorvard and Patrick Enoch, Francois Delatti and Luca Lystra. I think we'll be disappointed, the Belgian, to be down in 24th in that one. The pace has not been as great as it should be, really, for the RS Schumacher car. I was talking to him and his teammate Dan Ginchard earlier. They're not quite at the pace they want to be yet. Robin Pagnat and Victor Obajanek, and then it is Angelo Melli and Miguel Pero Lozoraga, those two having technical difficulties that prevented them from getting a serious lap time in. That's Group 1. Group 2, well, there's just as many powerhouses in terms of amazing driving talents. You've got the likes of another one of the Strawberry Racing powerhouses, Josh Rowledge, who is there P7 last year in the 2018 championship, I should say. So he's the number 7 seed, and he is there along with Marcus Luzio, who is the number 10 on the Alonso chassis. And then we have the likes of two more of the Brits, Dan Ginchard for SFR Motorsport on the RS kart, and then Cian Shields, the Flying Scotsman, as he's quickly become known, for Fusion Motorsport. He was the fastest of all in non-qualifying practice this morning across the 4 sessions of 56.6, which is very difficult to consider being matched in this qualifying session just because of the time the drivers have to get up to that sort of speed. In 7 minutes, Vilgot Edqvist could only get to a 57.0, so it looks as though, certainly for today, Cian Shields could emerge as the fastest junior driver of them all. So keep an eye on him for pole position. There's a chance he could stretch it to a 56.9 at least from quali. Ken Oscar Algra, who's been with us since the mini days back in 2017. He is there for Ike's Racing once again on the Experience chassis. Nathan Ottink, who steps up to juniors this year after a successful campaign in last year's mini category and was one of the star drivers, winning several races in the mini category last year. So expect him to be strong from the off. Sam Hawthorne for the M Sport team on the Kart Republic chassis. He's been very competitive and very consistent when he's got a good racetrack to play with, and he's got good balance and good pace as well. He's a very patient driver, actually, Sam Hawthorne. He lets these things come to him rather than allows himself to get flustered. So expect some good things from him this weekend. There's the young man for Monlau Competition, Eric Alanis, the Spaniard, who's basically taken over the junior mantle in that squad from his countryman Mari Boyer, who is now a senior. But Eric Alanis was very fast indeed in the earlier practice sessions, so watch for the Spaniard. He could be a big threat. Then we have Ruben Volt, the Estonian, another one of the drivers who's up from minis last year into juniors this year, and he's done so incredibly quickly. He was fastest in one of the practice sessions earlier today, so expect Ruben Volt to be a serious contender. Then there is the Belgian, Lucas Teilman, who is racing under the Mach 1 banner, the Del Rey Racing team. So Thierry Del Rey, the shifter European champion from last year, is not just racing, he's also team managing this weekend for Lucas Teilman, the Belgian, so expect him to be competitive. Then we have Thijs Kleinjan, who is there for VKR Racing on the Birolart chassis. Expect Thijs to be very competitive. Eloy Gonzalez, the Spanish driver for the FA Racing team. And then we have Talvar Racing's Estonian Hugo Arendi, He was pretty good last time out in Valencia as well, so watch for him. Then there is the KH Racing Team driver on the Ricardo kart. That is Albin Karlsson of Sweden. He's definitely going to be competitive today. Olli Pilka, a lot of drivers and a lot of people up and down the pit lane think this man could get the overall pole position for Dan Holland Racing. He struggled through adversity in Valencia last time out. In the Thursday practice, he had a massive roll, and it looked as though he wasn't really certain to compete for the rest of the weekend. Not only did he do that, but he ended up with an overall podium, Oliver Pilka. So it was great to see him fight his corner and get himself into an amazing position. And last year was a difficult year for the young Pole, but this year, Pilka's definitely on song. Liam McNeely, another of the top drivers for Evolution, along with his new teammate, Helena Nerudini, who was part of the... well, it was known as the HTP kart team. Now this year they've rebranded. It is now the CV Performance Group. But Helena Nerudini, the Albanian, who is based these days in Germany, along with his teammate Liam McNeely, those two, the Evolution team, really have strong one-lap drivers, and they could be very, very quick in qualifying. We've only just seen Zach Ripley go fourth fastest in his practice session group, and we know how fast he can be when he's got a clear track in front of him. So expect the likes of Liam McNeely and Helena Nerudini to be a threat for qualifying here again as well. And then we have a trio of Brits who are incredibly rapid. Oliver Gray for Dan Holland Racing has been one of the stalwarts of Valencia. He had all sorts of difficulties. A retirement, I think it was, in the pre-final. And then he stormed his way from the back of the field to be in the top six by the race end. Absolutely amazing pace from Oliver Gray. And having been a former Birillart cadet champion years ago, has stepped into the Dan Holland Racing team with immense pace. And he could potentially be a IAME Euro Series champion in waiting. However, there's one young man who'd want to change that. That's KR Sports' Alfie Rigby, joined the team just recently. And, of course, Alfie Rigby has had some very entertaining times of late. He is the reigning national champion back home in Great Britain at Honda Cadets, but has come into the IAME Euro Series this year. Very much one of the new faces for Supremacy. Was very competitive in Valencia, had a great time at the Dubai O Plate a couple of months ago, and was a podium finisher there. So Alfie Rigby, definitely one of the dark horses for the victory this weekend. Sam Shaw, this man for BKC Racing, has finally made his debut in Europe, and a lot of people have been very stunned by how quickly he's got up to speed. I'm certainly not. I've been watching him for a couple of seasons now in his native Great Britain, and Sam Shaw, very competitive indeed, and it's great to see the young gun doing such a great job in Europe. Ian Aguilera, the Mexican, who is based in the United Kingdom, has done some good work for Fusion Motorsport over the last 18 months, made a guest appearance in last year's National Mini X30 Championship back in Blighty. But here in Europe, this is his first test at the major European scene, and Ian Aguilera is very fast, very strong, very composed, and learns very quickly, so expect big things from him. Over at Kart Republic, the Team Driver Racing Kart SDAR squad has the Norwegian talent Benjamin Fuglsang, who returns to the IAME Euro Series paddock. He's been here a couple of times before, but it's great to see him what is hopefully going to be a full-time junior campaign with Kart Republic. Then the Canadian, who is very quickly earning the title of Most Improved Driver from last year, the Canadian Jason Leung for KR Sport. This guy's got bags of speed compared to last year. He was developing in 2018. He did a cracking job wherever he could, but the speed now is definitely starting to come Jason Leung's way. So I would expect him easily to be within that top six, potentially overall. Then we have the Belgian talent, Mathis Fagbemi. He is for the DCK Racing Team, and obviously will know this track very well indeed. So good luck to Mathis, and hopefully it's going to be a really strong talent there. For Dan Holland Racing, McLaren DNA young gun Archie Walker is getting faster and faster as every session progresses. They've been out here testing quite well. He seems to like the circuit very well here at Mariembourg. And he's one of the drivers who could very much impress. This is still, as they keep saying in the Archie Walker fold, their learning year, but they're learning by being ruddy fast is the way to describe it. It's a welcome return to the IAME Euro Series paddock as well for Bart Plug. A lot of the regular members of the fraternity will remember him from his mini campaign in 2017 when he was fast out of the blocks in his first weekend and was a winner in the pre-final and final of mini back in 2017. So Bart Plug is back in the paddock once again. It's great to see him, and hopefully he will come fast out of the blocks in juniors in the 2019 campaign under his own racing banner. Then another one of the Dutch talents, Dinan Dokum, is there for the TK Racing squad. And then finally, there's hope for everybody to have a little bit of luck swing the way of unique racing driver Jerzy Spinkovic, the Polish driver. Very talented man, this, and has put in some stellar performances in 2018. Never really got the luck, never got the breaks to really give himself the best possible package. Whatever it was that seemed to keep getting in the way last year, he had a lot of bad luck to cope with. And hopefully in 2019, those bugs are gone. So we'll see plenty of great racing drivers from all over the world again in this one particular category. And it is a truly continental championship. We've got talents from here in Belgium, as well as from further afield into Britain, Estonia, the Netherlands, Spain. We have the contingent from Sweden, from Poland, from Germany, and from Canada in this particular session alone. And there's a lot of great talent. 7 minutes are going to go on the clock once again as the drivers get ready for qualifying practice series 2. And it's all going to be about whether anybody can beat the pace of the Strawberry Racing twins from the earlier session, with Wilgert Edqvist just edging out Aaron Walker in the previous session. And those two have been really quick at getting up to speed. If anybody's going to beat them, they're going to have to do it very quickly indeed from this group. Although, in this qualifying session, we have the fastest man of the weekend, Cian Shields, the Flying Scotsman, number 12 for Fusion Motorsport. He could be the ultimate pole sitter, but he's going to have to be absolutely on his A-game to get the job done. The Strawberry Racing twins have come out and stormed the Crows very much from early doors. So can they make it happen? Straight away out onto the circuit for a bit of extra practice comes Matthijs Fagbemi. And also onto the track comes the 34, Thijs Kleinjan. This is their first time qualifying practice in the IAME Euro Series paddock. So a massive welcome to Matthijs Fagbemi and Thijs Kleinjan. So they are going to go and put in some fast laps around this Mariembourg circuit. First blood to those two in terms of on-track action. Everybody else sits tight and waits for their moment. So we've had, back in Valencia, a long wait for the main field to come out onto the circuit. It was a lot better organised from the drivers, it has to be said, in the earlier practice session, earlier qualifying practice today. So that worked out very well in terms of the rhythm. There were not too many nasty catastrophes. Although, if you ask Miguel Pedro Zoraga if he's happy about the way qualifying one went, he'll tell you, well, no, it was an absolute nightmare. But for Bemi and Kleinjan, those two are out there on the circuit at the moment, putting in a strong challenge as the battle is going to commence. Here they come, drivers all pouring out, led out by the 40 of Hugo Arendi, and 2 or 3 more join them out onto the circuit. So Matthijs Fagbemi is top of the timesheets for a brief period. Thijs Kleinjan is going to be there in second place. But Hugo Arendi, Lucas Teilman and Albin Carlsen have all elected to go out onto the circuit now for their qualifying session. Everybody else is just sitting tight and waiting to see what happens. And who's going to blink first from the main group? Because it seems to be that when one driver goes, they all bolt together. So we have 5 of them out there at the moment. Matthijs Fagbemi, Thijs Kleinjan, Lucas Teilman, Hugo Arendi and Albin Carlsen. But the rest of the field is just biding their time and waiting for their moment. It's who blinks first in juniors. And out onto the circuit goes Daniel Ginchard. And as soon as he goes out, the field starts to emerge with them. Well, it's just one, actually. Eric Alanis goes out at the same time for Monlau Competition. So a little bit later until these guys head out. But Dan Ginchard, one of the surprise elements of Valencia, who came out of the blocks and very nearly bagged pole position in his first ever qualifying session in the IAME European Series paddock. IAME Valencia Winter Cup, of course, is just a one-off exhibition event. Took place last month. It's going to take place again in 2020. And it'll be about the same sort of time of year. Drivers coming out onto the circuit now, any time now, for the mass batch of drivers, but they want to get out into space. And certainly for the drivers out there, they'll want to make sure they've got a clean bit of road. Thijs Kleinjan has done a 59.5 for his first flying lap. Matthijs Fagbemi is on a 60.514. Carlsen, Arendi, Teilman, Dan Ginchard and Eric Alanis are hopefully going to get a competitive lap time out of it as well. When is the field going to storm out? We've only got 4 minutes to go now. And now the drivers are going to start edging out onto the circuit as Dan Ginchard backs off from a flying lap. And now they all come swarming out, led out by Ian Aguilera. So Ian Aguilera, the Mexican, has headed out onto the circuit. And now they're all jockeying away for position. It's all getting a bit messy after the first corner as they all want to try and get themselves into position. They've left this very late indeed. 4 minutes to go before they started emerging onto the track. We've got 3.5 to go now. So a lot of the drivers in this field are only going to get maybe one, possibly two decent flying laps, because the rest of it is going to be dictated by traffic. So at the moment, a lot of drivers are just trying to get themselves into a decent position on the racetrack, ready to dial in for a lap. And several drivers are struggling to find that track position. They waited very, very long indeed to get themselves into a strong position. And that means that there's only going to be 3 minutes, essentially, for the drivers to get a decent lap time in. And effectively, that battle for them starts now. They're all out there. Thijs Kleinian is currently the fastest man on a 58.6. Then it's Lucas Tuilman, Albin Carlsen, Matthijs Fagbemi, Hugo Arendi and Erik Alanis in front of Benjamin Fugelsang and Dan Ginchard, as the field is now starting to make their way through. So in the next 50 seconds or so, we'll see the times tumble very dramatically as drivers are going to head out and get a fast lap in. Dan Ginchard working along with the 22 of Erik Alanis, as those two look likely to work with each other for a decent pole lap. There's a monumental squabble of drivers through the train in the middle section, led by Oliver Gray, the 63 of Dan Holland Racing. So he may end up with quite a few drivers towing off him through this particular session. But for the record, at the moment it is Thijs Kleinian from Lucas Tuilman and Albin Carlsen, then Matthijs Fagbemi, Hugo Arendi, Erik Alanis, Benjamin Fugelsang, Dan Ginchard, Josh Rowledge and Oliver Gray for the record. But that's going to change pretty much any second now, as the drivers will pound out of that final turn. Dan Ginchard leads the queue with support from Erik Alanis. Does he go fastest of all? He does not. It's Ben Fugelsang that goes fastest. Then Josh Rowledge comes through. Now Oliver Gray goes fastest of all. And Archie Walker comes up to third behind Gray and Rowledge. Nerudini is fourth. Now it's fifth because Ollie Pilker's come up to third. So for the next minute and a half, this is where the positions are going to change dramatically. Thijs Kleinian's come up to fourth place. So a little bit more track time is giving him good knowledge. So it's Oliver Gray in front of Josh Rowledge, Ollie Pilker, Thijs Kleinian, then Archie Walker, Herolin Nerudini, Jerzy Spinkovic, Ken-Oscar Algra, Lucas Tuilman and Liam McNeely in the top 10 from Sam Hawthorne and Dinan Dokum. Then it's Jason Young, Albin Carlsen, Ben Fugelsang, Sam Shaw, Cian Shields, Ruben Volt, Alfie Rigby, Ian Aguilera, Bart Plug, Eloy Gonzalez, then Marcus Luzio, Erik Alanis, Dan Ginchard, Hugo Arendi, Matthijs Fagbemi and Nathan Ottink. So they're going to come through again this time, and the queue is still led by Dan Ginchard, being given a massive toe in by Erik Alanis as they come across the line. They're only going to have one more flying lap each. Rowledge goes fastest on a 57.2. Cian Shields goes second in front of Jason Leung. Jason Leung comes up to third place. Great work from the Canadian. Oliver Gray to fourth in front of the Mexican Ian Aguilera, now fifth in front of Ken-Oscar Algra. Thijs Kleinian still banging in those laps on his own. Seventh position now he comes back up to from Dinan Dokum, Nathan Ottink up to ninth, and Marcus Luzio, fastest of all in the first sector, in 10th position. So Luzio is one to watch here. He's gone fastest of all in sector one, and he could be on for a very surprising upset on Josh Rowledge if he keeps this pace throughout the lap. The checkered flag is about to come out. It's Rowledge from Shields, Leung, Gray, Aguilera and Algra, then Thijs Kleinian, Dinan Dokum, Nathan Ottink and Marcus Luzio. McNeely, Fugelsang, Walker, Rigby and Volt. The checkered flag will come out this time. Time has run down to nothing. Ginchard crosses the line at the front of the queue, and it's going to be a strong battle to the flag. Ginchard comes up to the top 10. Can he remain there? Rowledge is first. Gray goes faster than Shields for second. McNeely second now. Luzio third. Great performance from McNeely and Luzio as they tuck in behind Rowledge. It's a Brit 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's Herolin Nerudini in fifth place. Very good performance, but they're nowhere near the pace of the Swede Wilger Edqvist, who was a 57.0. Rowledge is only able to get a 57.2. Then it's McNeely in second place in this practice group from Marcus Luzio in a brilliant third place. Welcome to Europe, Marcus. Great to see him up there in P3. A fantastic effort in this session. Oliver Gray in P4. Then Herolin Nerudini is fifth from Cian Shields. Jason Leung, great performance from him. The Canadians really making 2019 light work. Ken-Oscar Algra in a good eighth place from Archie Walker and Alfie Rigby, who round out the top 10. Then it is Ruben Volt in 11th position in front of the Dutchman Nathan Ottink, going well in his first IAME Euro Series weekend as a junior. Then, of course, it is 13th place for Ian Aguilera. Jerzy Spinkovic going well. The pole goes 14th place. Eloy Gonzalez is in front of Thijs Kleinian. The Dutchman ending up 16th then in the end from the two Brits, Sam Hawthorne and Dan Ginchard. Ginchard won't be too happy with that, to be fair. Sam Hawthorne will be a little disappointed as well. He might have been able to find at least another 0.3 of a second from that particular lap. 19th on the grid is going to be, well, certainly 19th in this group, I should say, is going to be Dinan Dokum, and then it is the Norwegian Benjamin Fuglsang, who is there in 20th. Sam Short, 21st, in front of a very disgruntled Ollie Pilker. He will wonder where on earth his pace fell away to, a full second away from Josh Rowledge, and Ollie Pilker was not showing that sort of pace earlier on. He was a lot faster than that, so something's definitely gone wrong for Ollie Pilker. A very tough session too for the Spaniard Eric Alanis, who has only gone 23rd in that group. Then Lucas Teilman, Hugo Arendi. Then it is Albin Carlsen, Matthijs Fagbemi, and former mini race winner Bart Plug could only end up in 28th position. So, very competitive indeed from the juniors. Outright pole position is going to go the way of the Swede Vilgot Edqvist. So he is going to be ultimate pole position after two very competitive junior sessions, and we'll see the first race of the day from them tomorrow at what is local time of 10:50. So all of the racing pretty much kick-starting tomorrow at 10 minutes past 10 local time. For those back in Great Britain listening in or watching the live stream, of course, tomorrow, you can do so from 9 a.m. when we'll be going live. But it will be very exciting racing, as we've already seen from qualifying. Lots of twists and turns in this battle, as the Swede Vilgot Edqvist becomes the latest man to grab a pole position in the IAME European Series. And that will be a very happy Swede who goes to bed tonight very content with his lot. So a very good start from his point of view. So we now have two of our pole position sitters for tomorrow confirmed. We'll wait for official confirmation, of course, but we have that from the minis. It is Freddie Slater who is confirmed as pole position for the minis from earlier on, in front of his teammate Guillermo Delgado, René Lammers and Paul Cayos in the top four. Then Sasha Van Pad Bosch and Sebastiano Pavan in the top six, from Sebastian NG, William Go, and then Leo and Edu Robinson. No relation, they just happen to have the same surname. Leo Robinson in 9th place and Edu Robinson in 10th position, in front of Clement Outram, Alfie Slater, Zico Hopkins-Collis of Australia, and the Spaniard Lucas Flusha. From Thomas Strauvan, Louis Laveau, Adrian Ferrer, Dylan Visser, Bogdan Ionodbria, and Thibault Ramakas. And then it is Thibault Gelade, Julian Jägers, Henk Junior Vuik, Maria Germano Nito, Rodrigo Seabra, Arthur Vossort, Luna Flusha, Freddie Housley, Nils Lelor, and Patrice Kovalevsky. That was the order from the earlier X30 Mini qualifying practice. X30 Junior, we have the checkered flag out, but it's Vilgot Edqvist who is set to be confirmed as the official pole position sitter in the juniors, in front of Aaron Walker and Josh Rowledge, in fact, who was the fastest of his qualifying practice series group. So Strawberry Racing will be absolutely elated tonight as they celebrate their drivers 1, 2 and 3 with Vilgot Edqvist, Aaron Walker and Josh Rowledge, the fastest from qualifying practice in this particular group. But fastest of the weekend is still Cian Shields, who in earlier time practice got a 56.6. So there's plenty still to come from the juniors this weekend, and that's only a short slice of what we're going to see from them over the course of the weekend. 79 drivers become our next point of attention as we get ready for the senior battle. Now, this year is going to be ultra competitive. Last year's champion, Mark Kimber, is back and wants to retain his crown, but there are so many talents that are going to take it away from him. A lot of them who battled with him last year, and others who fought for supremacy in the junior category who came of age over the winter and are now moving into seniors. Let's tell you the story by talking you through the drivers that are going to be here over the course of the weekend. We'll start by looking at the earlier non-qualifying practice sessions from earlier on. In the odd-numbered group, in the first session, it was Romain Leroux, the Strawberry Racing driver from France, who managed to bag the fastest time in front of the Persistence Racing driver and reigning IAME Junior Champion of Europe. That is Lewis Gilbert. The European champion from last year in senior, Mark Kimber, was third, and then Remo Kadapik in fourth place in front of Rivaldo van der Westerleken and Leonardo Caglioni in the top six. In the even-numbered session, for drivers with karts of even numbers, it was Joey van Splunteren, the Dutchman, who was fastest in the Evolution kart, and that made him fastest of all, actually, as well. He with a 55.7, And then it was Matilda Olsen, second position in that session and overall up to that point for Strawberry Racing, the Swedish female who became the first woman to win a heat in IAME Euro Series last time out. The young Swede from Uppsala did a fantastic job on her 18th birthday weekend, and she is now in second overall, at least from that time sessions we had earlier on. It was Jordan Brown-Nutley, her teammate, in third position in front of the ever-improving Spaniard Philippe Vava for the KR Sport team, who's really making great strides this weekend. Nelson King and Sean Butcher were in the top 6 in that session as well. That was non-qualifying practice 1 for the even-numbered brigade. They had a lunch break and then came into non-qualifying practice 2, and of the odd-numbered drivers, the one who emerged fastest was Georgi Dimitrov of the Fusion Motorsport team. He came up with a 56.048, which was not quite as fast as they had managed earlier on in the day. And it was a similar story in the second time session, but we will talk about that in a moment. Georgi Dimitrov was fastest in the non-qualifying practice 2 for odd-numbered karts ahead of Rimo Kadapik and the man who was third in last year's IAME Euro Series and the Valencia Winter Cup champion from 2018, Clayton Ravenscroft. The Euro Series champion from last year, Mark Kimber, was fourth. The reigning FIA Karting Academy Trophy champion, Mari Boya, was fifth position in that session for Monlau Competición, and of course he was a race winner last year in the IAME Euro Series paddock, fought for the title and dominated on home soil in the Winter Cup in 2018 as a junior. And here as a senior, he's already at the sharp end, fifth place in that session earlier on, non-qualifying practice 2 for odd-numbered drivers, and he was a whisker quicker than Leonardo Caglioni. In fact, I say he was a whisker quicker. He was only faster than Caglioni based on the fact that he set the lap first, because they were equal to the 1,000th of a second. 11 drivers in that practice 2 for odd numbers, covered by less than a 1/10 of a second. Can I just say that again? Non-qualifying practice 2 earlier this morning for odd-numbered drivers featured 11 drivers covered by less than a 1/10 of a second. I don't get to say that very often. It really is absolutely fantastic in this field this year. In the non-qualifying practice 2 for even-number drivers, it was Philippe Vava who came through as the fastest of all for KR Sport, along with Evolution's Joey van Spunteren. Then Jordan Brown-Nutley was third, ahead of the former world champion Danny Curl, who's racing under the Birolart Middle East banner this weekend. Then it is Callum Bradshaw. Welcome to the championship, Callum Bradshaw. It's been widely reported this is his first venture into the IAME Euro Series. Technically it is, although he was in the grid for the very first ever RGMMC IAME Euro race meeting, which was back in 2016 at Castelletto. He was a junior driver back then. He's a senior driver now, but this is certainly the first full-time campaign from Callum Bradshaw, and we're really excited to see what he can do. Fast out of the blocks in qualifying practice 2 this morning in the even-numbered contingent, just a whisker ahead of Niels Kuhlen. So that's how they went in the practice sessions earlier on. There are 3 practice sessions for the senior drivers because there are just so many of them. As I mentioned, 79 drivers who have had to be separated into 3 qualifying practice series groups. And there are 28 in the first 2, 27 in the third. We've got a bit of time before the session actually gets underway, so let's talk you through who is going to be in qualifying practice series 1. Starting with the current European champion, Mark Kimber, who's come straight back out of the blocks and been fast immediately in this particular session, in this particular category. He is one of the best kart racers in the world now, and Mark Kimber is definitely hoping to get another title under his belt. But he's going up against the world champion in this qualifying practice series, Danny Curl, who won the world title back in 2017 on home soil at PF International those days ago. Romain Leroux, third position out of the blocks in this particular session, the number 315, along with BMR's Harry Platten, who's on the very well-celebrated Xenon chassis. Strawberry Racing have brought the Dutchman Rivki Rakamulja to this first round of the European Championship, and hopefully he'll be here for a full campaign. Then we have Patrick Degenbeck, the German, who's on the CRG chassis for DG Performance. Luca Medunitza, who made a fantastic debut in the paddock back in Valencia, was really up at the sharp end for most of Friday and Saturday, so hopefully there's more where he came from for the Ike's Racing team. Alicia Barrett, who was actually the first woman to win any kind of race in the IAME Euro Series. Matilda Olsen was the first to win a heat, but last year Alicia Barrett won the B final which was back at Wackersdorf, I believe, and did a fantastic job to do so. Now she's a senior. This is her first ever meeting in Europe as a senior, so hopefully it's going to be a good one. Philippe Valver, who we mentioned earlier as the fastest in qualifying practice 2, he's going to be of the even number drivers as well, so he should be a very fast driver this weekend. And then retaining his seat at the team, although the team has now rebranded, it was known as the HTP Kart team. It is now, of course, CV Performance Group, and it's Linus Janssen, the German, who will be for that particular squad. Jan Kalmet is here for Talvar Racing. The Estonian is set to be very strong. And then comes Rivaldo van der Westerleken for the Dimes Racing team, the Dutchman, who is going to be very competitive too. And then the teammate to Joe van Spunteren in the Evolution squad. There's 2 Dutchmen, actually, for that squad. There's Jort Kuhn and there's Niels Kuhlen. So both of those guys will be very fast. Casper Janssen will be on a Tony kart, the youngster from Sweden. And then we have the Piers Sexton racing driver, who was originally based in Japan and, of course, has mixed parentage. He's American and is living in England these days. Talk about all of that. Rhys Ushijima, whose target is to win the Indy 500 one day, and I'm sure he's going to. Masatora Wada, the Japanese driver who's based in England these days, is there for M Sport. RSD Karting has Matteo Raspatelli, who is one of the local guard and especially going to be fast here. For VK Racing is the Dutch lady Nina Potov, so watch out for her, and she is going to be on the Birol chassis. She's been very fast for most of the weekend, to be fair, so Nina Potov should be very strong. Then we have for the Zenon team, Thomas Fleming. Thomas Fleming is going to be very competitive once again. And then for Team Evolution, it is Jana Guvarts, another of the local talents who knows this place like the back of his hand. Then there is that man for Fusion Motorsport, Callum Bradshaw, making his European IAME Series full-time debut, and certainly his debut as a senior as the qualifying session starts away. Callum Bradshaw, a former junior world champion, of course. Then we have Roman Tavitian, who is going to be there for CG Racing on the Sodi kart. His teammate is going to be Thomas Tavitian. And then we have Laurent Reynards of the Antwerp Karting Racing Team. And also Tom Nellison for Dimes Racing Team. And the last man in is M Sport Karting's Kart Republic star, Jack Deakin, who's going to be very talented over the course of the season. So we'll see some great stuff from him too. Out on the circuit, we've already had a couple of them take to the racetrack to get some initial running in. Rivki Rakamulya, the Dutchman, and so too has gone the Dutch lady Nina Potov. So Nina Potov going out onto the circuit. There are 3 females in the field for this first round of the championship, because we have Alicia Barrett and Nina Potov, as well as the very talented Swede Matilda Olsson. I did think earlier in the week we had a potential entry from Praga España's young talent, Nerea Marti, who was doing a fantastic job at Valencia last time out, but due to various difficulties, unfortunately, she cannot attend this first round of the championship. But hopefully she'll be back in time for round 2, along with several of her teammates in the field next time out at Castelletto. So the drivers now pounding out some laps. Rivki Rakamulya and Nina Potov. Out onto the circuit goes the 416 of Callum Bradshaw, and that leads them all out. So they clearly identified Callum Bradshaw as a name to follow, and they are all starting to swarm out. There's still a good collection of drivers who are hanging back, but Callum Bradshaw is very confident in himself. He knows what he wants to do, and he's out there putting in some fast laps already. So we'll see what happens there as the drivers get themselves up to speed, and we'll see some fantastic performances as the racing continues. So, who is going to draw first blood in qualifying practice series 2? Rivki Rakamulya and Nina Potov have gone out onto the circuit. A few of them have gone out to join Callum Bradshaw, namely Roman and Thomas Tavitian, Tom Nellison, Matteo Raspatelli, Rhys Ushijima and Patrick Degenbeck. And now heading out onto the circuit goes Luka Merunitsa, and that seems to be the catalyst for a lot of the other drivers to take this opportunity. And now all of them come out onto the circuit. So they waited 3 minutes or so. There was a couple of collections of drivers that waited a little bit longer, but basically they want to preserve tyre life, or whether it's just psychosomatic and they want to blink first and see who comes out on track before anyone else. It's one of those things, isn't it? How long do you wait before someone came out? Well, I went out when he went out. It's all psychosomatic as far as I'm concerned. So the drivers now panning themselves around the circuit and hoping to get a fast lap in. Matteo Raspatelli's done an initial first banker lap of 58.576. That's not a bad banker. It's not a good. It's not a bad benchmark to go for. And in terms of the fast laps we got from the earlier practice sessions, the fastest lap of all. It was quite close over the course of the sessions. Philip Vava managed to get a 55.8 from his second practice session. A 58.75, namely, but the fastest lap of all was Joey van Spunteren. He did a 55.776 on his number one practice session for even number drivers. So Joey van Spunteren's time, the 55.7, is the fastest of the weekend. They're about 2 seconds off that already at the moment. With 3 minutes to go, that is going to drop, and we'll see some faster times come in. Matteo Respatelli is fastest of all at the moment from Patrick Diggenbeck and Callum Bradshaw. But the really fast times are still coming in. Tom Nellison and Nina Potov, Rhys Ushijima and Rivki Rakamulya, and then Roman Tavitian, Philip Vava, Thomas Fleming and Thomas Tavitian from Rivaldo van der Westerleken. This is just for qualifying practice series 1, of course. They've had to be separated into 3 separate practice series groups. But this one is going to give us a bit of an indication as to what sort of time the drivers will be questing for to go for pole position. 2 minutes and 30 on the clock as the drivers are going to start coming over the line for a fast lap as Rivki Rakamulya just slots in underneath Nina Potov's position in the timesheets, which was 5th position, but now the laps are coming in and Callum Bradshaw goes fastest on a 56.751, just 12 thousandths of a second quicker than Niels Kuhlen. Patrick Degenbeck, the German, now goes fastest on a 56.6, so a very good run there from Patrick Degenbeck, and he is now the fastest of this particular qualifying session. There are 3 groups for qualifying practice, and this is Series 1. And so far, it's good for Patrick Degenbeck. He leads Callum Bradshaw and Niels Kuhlen. Matteo Respatelli is 4th from Thomas Fleming and Alicia Barrett, who's come very fast out of the blocks. Then Jort Kuhn, Jan Kalmet, Jana Guvarts, and Harry Platten. I'm still waiting for the big laps from Danny Curl and Mark Kimber. Expect to see them in the top 10 very soon indeed. And we should see some pretty fast laps too from the likes of Filip Vava and Luka Medunica. Watch for Rivaldo van der Westerleken as well as the times come in. Here we go again. Raspatelli goes to the top on a 56.2. Big laps coming as Callum Bradshaw does a 56.3. And there's going to be some more lap times coming through. Now we're going to get the big guns. Danny Curl goes fastest, 56.146. I knew it wasn't going to be too long before he blinked. And here he comes. A very good move there from Danny Curl. So Raspatelli, Bradshaw, Roman Leroux, Jort Kuhn and Jan Kalmet come next from Patrick Diggenbeck, Thomas Fleming, Harry Platten and Niels Kuhlen. Then it is Linus Janssen from Philip Vava, Lauren Reinertz, Tom Nellison, Jack Deacon going well in front of Nina Potov. Then it is Alicia Barrett, Mark Kimber only 18th. He needs to find a good lap. Rivaldo van der Westerleken and Rhys Ushijima. Then Jana Guvarts, Roman and Thomas Tavitian, Rivki Rakamulya, Masato Awada, Luka Medunica still only 26th, and Kasper Janssen. They're only going to get one more flying lap out of this one. They're going to come across the line to start it, and the first one over that line is Callum Bradshaw. Has he gone faster at all? No, 56.3 still the time. As up to second goes Mark Kimber. There we go, 56.229. Challenging Danny Curl, less than a tenth of a second away from Curl, and Raspatelli on home soil is there in 3rd place. So it's Curl, Kimber, Raspatelli. Bradshaw is 4th from Fleming, Degenbeck, Kuhlen, Vava, Leroux and Jort Kuhn. But there is just one qualifying lap to go for all of the drivers out there. They're only going to get one more. And the first man who's going to cross the line is going to be Callum Bradshaw. But can he go faster than 4th place? That's a very good run considering he hasn't really been in the tow. Considering Callum Bradshaw's not had any drafting or he's not had any slipstreaming to cope with. He's got pure pace. And it will be amazing to see what he can do if this is the kind of pace he can do on his own. So they come through. The checkered flag is going to be prepared. Callum Bradshaw is going to be the first one to cross it. Can he break into that top 3 faster than Raspatelli? No, he stays on a 56.3. But up to the top goes Philip Vava. The Spaniard goes fastest. Philip Vava is fastest of all on his final flying lap in front of Danny Curl and Mark Kimber. From Raspatelli, Rhys Ushijima's come up to 5th place. Great work from Rhys Ushijima. That's a big lap from the American, and he'll be absolutely delighted with that. Callum Bradshaw is P6 in the end from Thomas Fleming and Jort Kuhn, Jan Kalmet and Patrick Degenbeck, Niels Kuhlen and Roman Leroux from Jana Guvarts and Harry Platten, Rivaldo van der Westerleken, Tom Nellison, Jack Deacon and Linus Janssen from Lauren Reinertz and Luka Medunica. Then the two ladies, Nina Potov and Alicia Barrett, from Kasper Janssen and Roman Tavetian, Masatora Wada, Thomas Tavetian, and Rivki Rakamulya, who was the first one to come out on circuit. The gap between them all, 1.4 seconds. But what a lap from Philippe Vava, the Spaniard, doing an absolutely amazing job to bag pole position in this particular qualifying practice series group. Absolutely superb. Can anybody beat that time then? 56.1. The gauntlet is thrown down by the Spaniard for KR Sport. And that is an amazing performance from Philippe Vava. Some really good efforts, though, throughout that particular qualifying group. Danny Curl and Mark Kimber were at the sharp end, exactly where we expected them to be. Quite normal for a former world champion and reigning IAME Euro Series champion. On home soil, Matteo Respatelli going very well indeed in that practice group. That's local knowledge that's helped him out there, and he's clearly got a good package underneath him. But Reese Ushijima, he's been threatening this kind of pace for a long, long time. And to see him up there in the top 5 on pure merit, that's great work. And I'm sure that Piers Sexton, Colin Brown, and everybody within the PSR team are going to be absolutely elated with Reese Ushijima. Finally, he's got himself some good fortune and a good break there. Absolutely terrific. 6th place for Callum Bradshaw. A good effort from him on his IAME Euro Series senior debut. Thomas Fleming going very well. He always does. This is the thing. He's got massive pace, Thomas Fleming, and it's great to see him in that top 10. Jort Kuhner and Jan Kalmet in that top 10 once again, just ahead of the German Patrick Degenbeck, who for quite a long time looked as though he was going to be fastest of all in that group, but he's still only a quarter of a second away from Philippe Vava, so there's still plenty to come from the German. Niels Kuhlen in 11th place ahead of Roman Leroux and Jana Guvarts. Harry Platten is half a second away from the top spot, but 14th. That's how tight it is. Good effort, though, from Harry. Rivaldo van der Westerlaken, frustrating from the Dutchman for the Dimes Racing team again in 15th. Tom Nellison in front of Jack Deakin. Another good effort from Jack. Linus Janssen, the German, there in 18th place. Solid effort. And the Belgian Lauren Reinarts in front of Estonia's Luka Medunitsa. A good opening gambit from Nina Potov and Alicia Barrett. Their first race as a senior in IAME Euro Series. The first time either of them have been in the championship, and they are solidly close to the pace. They're only 8/10 away from pole position. You've got to take these things into context. It's not easy when you're going up against the best racers in the world. So to be within a second is very good indeed. Kasper Janssen is next up. And then Roman Tavetian, Masatora Wada having some problems there by the look of it. Half a second away from the rest of the gaggle. And then Thomas Tavetian and Rivki Rakamulya, who for whatever reason the Dutchman just didn't quite be able to get to the same pace as the rest of the drivers in that gaggle. So that is qualifying practice series 1, and so far so good for Philippe Vava, the Spaniard for KR Sport, putting in a sensational run, and really good to see him up there. So the attention now focuses and moves on to the second qualifying practice series group. 26 drivers to talk about in this particular group, so let's talk about them. First of all is the first woman ever to win a heat in IAME Euro Series in any form, and that is Matilda Olsen, who did so during her 18th birthday weekend last month in February in Valencia, and has had amazing pace all weekend. She's been in the top 3 overall for pace in the qualifying practice earlier on today. Just a whisker behind the next man in the field, Joey van Splunteren. He had a nightmare in Valencia, but he's the runner-up from last year's IAME Euro Series, and he wants to go one better. The Dutchman is definitely a contender for this year's championship, as is the man from Strawberry Racing, Jordan Brown-Nutley, the Brit who's conquered pretty much everything there is to win in British karting and is doing a fantastic job in the European scene. Nicolas Picot, the Frenchman, has been going faster and faster as he gets up to speed as well. His teammate over at Strawberry. Over at M Sport, there's a strong pair of drivers there for Harry Barlow and Morgan Porter. Harry Barlow, a former vice-champion in junior Birolart, has moved away from the championship, unfortunately, for the 2019 season in its new guise as the Daniel Ricciardo Series to focus on his IAME European Series campaign. But with a driver like Morgan Porter as his teammate, these guys are definitely going to be attacking with gusto, and I'm sure the two of them will flow off each other very, very quickly. The Bamberger Racing Team sees the German Sandro Ritz on the Lenzo chassis here this weekend. Good to see him in the paddock, and already the signs are that he'll be pretty quick. Mari Boya is back once again for the Monlau Competition squad, and it's going to be great to see Mari Boya in his element once again. having won last year's FIA Karting Academy trophy and the IAME Valencia Winter Cup in early 2018. He dominated that day and is hoping to do so again very soon indeed as a senior, but he's getting on with things very quickly, already in the top 6 in each of his sessions earlier on, so there's plenty to come still from Mariembourg. Georgi Dimitrov, who was fastest of all in his second practice session earlier on today for Fusion Motorsport, is going to be definitely one to watch. The Bulgarian is very much getting faster and faster as his weekends progress. And he's a bit of a dark horse for the win here this weekend. He's had some good performances in the past in the IAME Euro Series. He's taken a few heat wins in the past, so he knows how to get things done. But this is the year he really wants to prove that it's not every now and then he wins, it's all the time. Lewis Gilbert, the Dalry Diamond, returns to the IAME Euro Series paddock, having become last year's junior champion. He was with the KR Sports Squad last year. This year, he's moved back to his old friends at the Persistence Motorsport team, and he's lost none of his speed at all. He is really happy and content. He loves life, and he loves racing in IAME Euro Series. And here this weekend, he has looked just as fast as he ever was. And incredibly, he's already threatening to be in the top 3 of senior, having just won the junior championship last year. So watch out for Lewis Gilbert. Hans Morin for the Dan Holland Racing team. He is one of the most improved drivers over the last 12 months I've seen in this category. He regularly threatens the top 5. He's always up at the sharp end, and he's got plenty of speed and commitment. So keep an eye out on Hans Morin. His switch of team seems to have given him a renewed focus, and he's very fast. Robin Knudsen, his countryman, is in the KR Sport team once again. Last year was about learning, about development, about getting up to speed. Well, this year, he's on the pace. He's very much within that second of the top end of the grid. He's got good commitment. He's balanced. He's controlled. He's very mature. This kid's got plenty of opportunities this year to really run at the front, and I expect him to have amazing races through the course of the season. As long as he gets the luck, he'll be absolutely on it. Then comes Angus Morsdale, another former world junior champion. Angus Morsdale on the Kart Republic chassis, running as a private entry. He's had all sorts of difficulties over the last 18 months or so in terms of setup, in terms of fortunes. But this kid, do not underestimate him. He has the potential to be champion if anything he puts his mind to. If he gets it right, he is genuinely, for me, one of the privateers who could win the whole thing. So watch out for Angus Morsdale. There is Rasmus Janssen as well. For another one of the independent runners, if you like, for Tony on the Tony Kart chassis, and the Swede is going to be particularly competitive all through the weekend. A new recruit to Dan Holland Racing in Europe is Nelson King. He's been very competitive in Great Britain. Pretty much everywhere he goes, he's within the top 5 very quickly in the British Championships, which means, of course, that when you come over to Europe, you've obviously got a standard to maintain, and Nelson King has been very, very calm and collected and got on with the job. He's very much in a very calm and mature mindset at the moment, so expect him to progress well. Then comes the Filipino, Eduardo Cosateng, who's now at KR Sport. And Eduardo will be very competitive this year with that team behind him. He seems to have gelled very well with the squad, even in the early stages, and there's plenty to expect from him. Alexander Wang, the Singaporean, has come over to Mick Barrett Racing. A very big brand name, of course, and have had a lot of airtime recently, as they have very correctly reminded people that 2 of the new recruits in Formula 1 have come through the Mick Barrett Racing stable, namely Alexander Albon and Lando Norris through the years. So Alexander Wang hoping that he can become Singapore's first ever Formula 1 driver one day, and with Mick Barrett Racing as a team to help him move forward, there's definitely no reason why he can't. Over at the Birilat Middle East squad is Manaf Hijawi, who's been very strong indeed over in the Middle East, not far from where he lives. He is, of course, the Jordanian, and very nearly took the entire Dubai O-Plate by the horns in the senior category back in January, but he's up for a scrap in the European Series. He's got a very mature outlook. He knows how to get the homework done. He's always very, very disciplined, and he's one of those drivers who can definitely create a bit of a storm. Also, Juliet, the Frenchman, is going to be doing a good job for KR Racing. Ivan Bataya It was one of the unknown quantities when we came to Valencia, but Ivan had a very good meeting at Valencia, and now they're hoping to continue that, the Praga España team, into the senior campaign. Kevin Stahauer is one of the Dutch runners for the Ferry Schmidt racing team, and Kevin has had some good performances in seniors before in the IAME Euro Series paddock. Hopefully we'll see some more from him. Representing PDB is another of the Dutch contingent, Bo Heijmans, who is one of the newest additions to the entry list for this one, and we're looking very excited to see what he can do on the Gillard chassis. Then we have Paul Javier Lopez, who is one of the Monlau Competición drivers, teammate to Mari Boya. So we'll see what Paul Javier Lopez can do. Over at Persistence, as teammate to Lewis Gilbert, will come Alex Pendlebury. And he's definitely seemingly tagging on to the sort of pace that we saw from Lewis Gilbert in the early stages of the 2019 season. He's definitely developing fairly fast, is Alex Pendlebury. I've seen him many times, again, in his native Great Britain, doing a good job. And I have a feeling that here today, he could show a few people a surprise as he battles his way for position. Also at Ferry Schmidt Racing, we have Nick Schmidt, who is going to be there running for supremacy. And over at Mick Barrett Racing, when he's not racing for the team, he's commentating alongside me most of the time these days, and that is Rufus Hunt. However, I have set him a challenge for this weekend. I don't want to see him in the commentary box. I want to see him on the track battling for the A final all the way through to the death. So, Rufus, if I see you, it's ambivalent. I'll be delighted to share the commentary box with you, but I think, as you would, much rather see you out on the circuit gunning for victory. So let's see what happens in this qualifying practice series 2. 7 minutes will go onto the clock once again, and it's the likes of Olsen, Van Spunteren, Brown-Nutley, Pico, Barlow, Ritz, Porter, Boyer, Dimitrov, Gilbert, Morin, Knudsen, Mulsdale, Janssen, King, Kosseteng, Wang, Hijawi, Juliet, Bataya, Stehauer, Heijmans, Lopez, Pendlebury, Schmidt and Hunt, who will go to battle to try and take that pole position away from the Spaniard Philip Vava, who came out of the blocks in the first qualifying practice series group a little earlier on, and will try and go for that pole position. That didn't seem like 12 minutes ago when he did that, did it? But, very quick indeed as we get ourselves ready for action in the 7-minute qualifying session once again. X30 Senior qualifying lap to go for is a 56.140. Even the second-place man, Danny Curl, very nearly got that. A 56.146 is what he ended up with. The time has started ticking down, so we're ready to go for qualifying, and straight away out onto the circuit comes the 312, and that is one of the Praga España carts. So that is... Oh, my apologies, it's not. It's a very similar colour scheme, but it is the Lenzo chassis. That is Sandro Ritz, the German for the Bamberger racing team. So he is out onto the circuit. And Sandro Ritz is hoping to be right up in the sharp end of the top 5. The German with plenty of pace back in his native Deutschland. But hopefully he's going to continue that sort of pace into the IAME Euro Series as well. The kart looking very balanced. There's the Lenzo chassis. We haven't seen too much of that particular brand in the IAME Euro Series in the past, but it's great to see them out here having a good battle for victory. And hopefully we'll see them challenging for the top spot before very long indeed. There's only 3 qualifying sessions to go, by the way, folks, for the rest of the day. Don't forget that we have a meet and greet social gathering this evening at 6 p.m. in the cafeteria after the day. So please do make sure you join us if you can. It's welcome for all the teams, sponsors, drivers, mechanics, parents, everybody. You're all welcome to join us, and we would very much welcome your company at 6 p.m. this evening after qualifying in the cafeteria on the 2nd floor up the stairs, basically. So we would love to see you all there, and all of the RGMMC crew will welcome you up with open arms. There is the 407 out on track now. That is Paul Javier Lopez, teammate to Mari Boya, the Monlau Competición driver, as he heads out onto the circuit with the Alonso chassis. Great to see Fernando Alonso putting in so much work to karting over the last few years, and that's only going to increase now that he has taken time away from Formula One. And he's still, of course, bidding to win the Indy 500 later this year. I'm sure all of the kids in the Monlau Competición squad are going to be rooting for him all the way through. Out onto the circuit, we have a few more drivers emerging, as Lewis Gilbert and Angus Mulsdale go out onto the circuit along with Alexander Wang. Now, Lewis Gilbert going out quite early is a surprise. I'm interested because I thought he would go out as part of the long group. The yellow flags have gone out because it looked as though there was an off from somebody. I think that might have been the 407 of Paul Javier Lopez. He might have gone off the circuit a little bit there. But now they're all flying out onto the circuit, followed out by Joey van Splunteren. So Joey van Splunteren goes out first, and he leads the entire field out. So that's what they do. They wait till a big name goes out, and somebody like Joey van Splunteren commands the respect of the other drivers. So anything he does, we're going to duplicate. So the drivers head out onto the circuit, and all but Nick Schmidt, who has now just gone out onto the circuit, in fact, are out on track. Lewis Gilbert goes around in a 59.1. So for the meantime, at least, Lewis Gilbert is the top spot. Having been junior champion last year, he's going with a very interesting strategy in this qualifying session. And he's found himself lined up behind the 410 of Nick Schmidt. He goes past him very quickly on the run to turn 5. But Lewis Gilbert, this is an interesting tactic for Lewis to not follow the sheep of the crowd and gets a 59.1 for his first flying lap. I wonder what sort of pace he's going to have when the rest of the field starts getting their flying laps in. Thing is, we know it can work because we saw Callum Bradshaw up at the sharp end in his practice series. Joey van Splunteren has bailed out of this flying lap before he's even started it. He eases off the power and then gets himself into a good track position, so we won't really see immediately what he's going to do from the start. But Lewis Gilbert will come through and over the line, and his lap time this time is beaten by Alexander Wang. So Alexander Wang does a 57.4. That's the first major flying lap as Angus Morsdale comes through in a 56.9. So a very fast lap there indeed from Angus Morsdale, as Eduardo Cosseteng now comes to second on a 57.3. Alex Wang is third in front of Lewis Gilbert, Sandro Ritz and Georgi Dimitrov. They've all set at least one lap, but they're not particularly competitive qualifying laps just yet. They will be shortly. Oh, it looks as though Sandro Ritz has a problem there. That's a real shame. Sandro Ritz has got a loose bumper. He must have gone off the circuit somewhere because the right-hand side of the bumper is loose and flailing off the kart. And unfortunately, he's going to receive the mechanical flag. He does so now. He nods and understands it, but that's not good for Sandro Ritz. It means effectively his bid for qualifying is over with 2 minutes on the clock, roughly. He's not going to be able to get out in time for another fast lap. That's a real shame. So Angus Morsdale is now at the top of the standings from Eduardo Cosseteng and Alex Wang. Then comes Bo Heimans. The Dutchman has gone up into 4th place from Marty Boyer and Ivan Batalla, the two Spaniards. Nelson King and Lewis Gilbert is 8th. Then Sandro Ritz is 9th in front of Matilda Olsen, although Ritz is going to come into the pits to, unfortunately finish his session because his rear bumper is loose, so he can't complete any more laps and then get out in the time before, he can't repair it, I should say, and then come back out in time for the session to end. So a real shame for Sandro Ritz, but he is going to, unfortunately, tumble down out of the top 10 as the other drivers get up to speed. So here comes the field, led over the line by the 3:42 of Rasmus Janssen, who goes straight up to 5th place. So here the competitive times will come, and there's tumbling all the way through as drivers are charging forward. Marty Boyer goes second, just in behind Angus Morsdale. Morgan Porter comes up to 3rd in front of Nelson King, and then it's Nick Schmidt, who's up to 5th place from Eduardo Cosseteng and Ivan Batalla. Then Jordan Brown-Nutley, Matilda Olsen and Robin Knudsen. So the two Swedes there just rounding out the top 10. Cosseteng displaces Nick Schmidt and goes up into P5 once again. So it's Angus Morsdale leading the way from Marty Boyer, Morgan Porter, Nelson King, Eduardo Cosseteng, then Nick Schmidt, Ivan Batalla, Jordan Brown-Nutley, Matilda Olsen and Robin Knudsen with 45 seconds left of the session. Then it is Hans Morin in front of Joey van Splunteren all the way down in 12th. Bo Heimans and Lewis Gilbert, who's only 14th. Then Nicolas Pico and Alex Wang, Enzo Juliet and Manaf Hijawi, Alex Pendlebury and Kevin Stahauer. Here they come. And through goes Rasmus Janssen once again, trying to break into the top 5. He only goes 13th fastest. Up to the top goes Joey van Splunteren. There it is, 56.3. But he needs to find that 56.1 second lap that's going to beat Philip Vava's time. Lewis Gilbert goes fastest of all. He's done it. He's done a 56.0. So a 56.0 means that Lewis Gilbert is the overall fastest. Wow, that strategy of going out on his own has clearly worked because he's now got himself into a good bit of track position and has banged in a fast lap. Great work from Lewis Gilbert as he goes fastest of all in front of Angus Morsdale and Matilda Olsen, who's now come up to 3rd. Good work from her. Jordan Brown-Nutley is 4th from Joey van Splunteren. Then it's Nick Schmidt, Morgan Porter, Marty Boyer, Nelson King and Ivan Batalla. But the checkered flag is going to be the next thing the drivers see And across the line will come Rasmus Janssen. He takes the checkered flag first. He improves to 15th, but there's still plenty of drivers to come through. Van Spunteren goes second. Can anybody beat Lewis Gilbert on a 56-0? Marty Boyer goes third. Brown Nutley goes fourth. Olsen has to settle for sixth. In behind Angus Mulsdale. Nick Smith overtakes Ivan Bataya. But it looks as though the top 10 is pretty much settled. No, it's not. Georgi Dimitrov goes up into 9th place in front of Ivan Bataya. And across the line for KR Sport, Eduardo Cosseteng improves to 13th. But that second-time group means that Lewis Gilbert, persistence pays off again. Lewis Gilbert is the fastest of all. Never mind just this practice series. He is the fastest man of the seniors with a 56.085. Now, will anybody be able to beat that in the third series? That is fantastic work from the Dolride Diamond again. Lewis Gilbert has done it in fine style. Joey Van Spunteren second from Marty Boyer. Jordan Brown Nutley is fourth in front of Angus Mulsdale and Matilda Olsen. Then it's Morgan Porter and Nick Smith, Georgi Dimitrov and Ivan Bataya, Kevin Stahauer and Nelson King from Eduardo Cosseteng, Hans Morin, Mana Fijawi and Bo Heimans, and then Nicolas Pico, Alex Wang, Robin Knudsen and Rasmus Janssen round out the top 20 from Enzo Juliet, Harry Barlow, Alex Pendlebury, Rufus Hunt, Paul Javier Lopez and Sandro Ritz. Wow, very close between Lewis Gilbert and Joey Van Spunteren, 0.075. And Marty Boyer got a 56.186 time there as well, compared to Philippe Vava. Well, Vava is still overall second, I do believe, because he's not quite been beaten by Joey Van Spunteren and Marty Boyer. And don't forget that Danny Curl was only 0.06 of a second slower than Philippe Vava. So those two, Vava and Curl, are overall second and third. But Lewis Gilbert has gone faster than all of them. Last year's IAME Junior Champion is threatening to be pole position in the senior battle. This is absolutely fantastic. Great work from Lewis Gilbert and a really good indication of what we're going to see from him in this 2019 campaign. He's won the juniors. Can he win the seniors in 2019? You never know. So a very good start from Gilbert, Van Spunteren and Boyer in the top three. Regular to see those two there. Marty Boyer should be quite pleased with third position, actually. Just a whisker away from Joey Van Spunteren. But he's faster than some fairly competitive seniors who have been old hands at this. Jordan Brown Nutley, Angus Mulsdale, Morgan Porter. All very regular drivers in the seniors and have established a real performance in these cars. But as a new boy in the championship in this particular class, Marty Boyer will be very happy, I think, with third in group. And certainly that should put him right up at the sharp end for the senior grid. However, that's taking into account the first two groups of practice, but not the third. So we should talk about the 26 drivers who will now come out for practice starting in 10 minutes' time. The drivers that we will be discussing through the weekend from the Qualifying Practice Series 3. Starting with the man who won the IAME Winter Cup last year, was runner-up in the X30 International Final, and was third in last year's IAME Euro Series Seniors, as well as a British champion in the X30 British Junior Championship, and that is Clayton Ravenscroft. He's been absolutely on fire ever since that weekend 13 months ago at Valencia for the IAME Winter Cup. Ever since that weekend, he's been on an absolute winning streak, and he seems to have set up a really good shop here at KR Sport. He loves the team, he loves the racing, and it seems as though he can do no wrong at the moment, but he's got a lot of opposition in this particular group of drivers to go up against. Firstly, there's Sean Butcher, the Australian, who is based in London these days in the UK, but for the Mick Barrett Racing team. So expect big things from Sean Butcher. He's been very competitive. Last year was a reasonably good year. He pulled off some good performances. He was very quick indeed in Britain, but he really wants to emerge on the world stage and become the next Mark Webber or the next Daniel Ricciardo. And Sean Butcher is definitely a name you need to keep an eye on because he's learning the right way, full of gusto and determination, and with the right squad too. Guilherme de Oliveira, the Portuguese driver, will be the next one out. That is KR Sports' new Portuguese star. And Guilherme has put on a fantastic performance over the course of the first few practice sessions. He's similar in pace to Philippe Vava and his teammate Clayton Ravenscroft, so we should see some good things from him in this session. Then there's the two Ikes Racing Estonians, two of the best talents ever to come out of Estonia, it has to be said. Siim Liedmaa and Rimo Kadapik, who have been very competitive, both of whom have represented their country on the world stage now in karting and established themselves as serious world contenders and some amongst the best in the international world of karting now. So expect big things from them in this session. For GT Motorsport, we have Gerard Tinoco, the Spanish driver on the Cosmic chassis. Again, he's a driver you want to keep an eye on. He does pull off a few decent surprises. However, on home soil, there is a lot of expectation on the next young man in the list, Eli Goldstein, and he is going to be very competitive indeed for the VDK Racing team. He knows this track so well. Remember how good he was last year. Expect him to be very much at the sharp end again. So Eli Goldstein is definitely going to be one to watch out for. He will be as competitive as he is determined. Then there is the Hungarian talent for the Dimes Racing team. That is Boldizsár Zsárbó. He was particularly consistent in the Winter Cup a few weeks ago, and he's just hoping for a little bit more fortune to go his way. He's another of those drivers, if qualifying can work well for him, he can let the rest of the weekend flow from there. But for so many drivers in the field, if you have a poor qualifying session, for whatever reason it might be, then it does tend to stunt your progress somewhat. But hopefully this is the weekend for Boldizsár to really make the progress. Earbaltsmoor, fresh into the senior category, and has gone in with the Evolution Racing team. A very smart move because his talent and his personality, his character, seems to gel quite well with the Evolution squad. He seems to be learning very quickly and has got some great expertise and great teammates in that squad to learn from. And he's sapping up all that knowledge like a sponge at the moment, Earbaltsmoor. So we should see some really competitive performances from him. Over at the Team Driver Racing Kart SDAR squad, or the Kart Republic Italian team, we have Leonardo Caglioni, and he was very fast at Valencia as well. He was one of the drivers essentially threatening for overall pole position. So the Italian is definitely going to be one to keep an eye on. Then there is Juan Carlos Hernandez, who is running as a privateer entrant this time under the Alonso chassis. He's been with the FA Racing Spania squad before, but he has continued to assert himself in the international scene. He's just trying things on his own for this one. Hopefully it's going to be just as competitive for him as it normally would be. One of the big signings coming into this weekend has been the latest driver to wow on the senior stage. He finished his season as a junior last year. The Belgian talent who won brilliantly at the Home of Champions at Genk last season in the FIA Karting Academy Trophy finale to finish just behind Marty Boyer in the points. And that is Kobe Powells, who has done an amazing job in the early stage of his junior career and has now stepped up to the plate as a senior for the CV Performance Group. So watch Kobe Powells here. He could well be the man to beat. So there's a lot still coming from him. Over at Pierce Sexton Racing, we have the very talented Spaniard Ruben Moya, who's been here very nearly since day one, actually. Ruben Moya has been a contender in the IAME Euro Series paddock ever since 2016 and has barely missed a round in the last 4 years. So we should see some good performances from him again. Liam Hezemans is in for the EGP squad this weekend on the X-Spirit chassis. Expect Liam to go very well. He obviously has a very famous racing stock of a family with lots of GT experience, both in Europe and on the international scene. So Liam Hezemans wanting to continue that family trend. Will Orton, goodness me, he's been busy over the last few weeks. He was competing for the Junior Saloon Car Championship Scholarship Program in Great Britain for youngsters who want to do car racing, but he's decided to settle in the world of senior karting in Europe. And I tell you what, he is as fast as he is absolutely enthusiastic. The young Litchfield Motorsport driver, Will Orton, he has just come back from taking victory last week in the first round of Super 1's Rock category as a junior. And he is now here as a senior in Europe on the X30 stage. And it proves that Will Orton's versatility knows no bounds. He can leap into any kart and be heroically strong. And again, he was one of the British candidates last year for the FAA Karting Academy Trophy, along with his countryman Josh Rattigan. So this boy has got so much speed, it's untrue. He's just waiting for his moment to really bite into the class he's in. And Will Orton definitely has the capacity and the ability to do that. Then there's Matthew Erb, the Swedish driver, who is going to be for the DCK squad. Danny Bunshu, the Swiss contender for Spirit Racing, is going to be there as well. In fact, Mathieu Herbe and Danny Buncho are both showing in my entry list as being Swedish. They're actually both Swiss. Not quite sure what happened there. PDB Racing's Oliver Fürstenhoff comes next. Now, he is from Sweden. He is racing in the PDB Racing colours this weekend. Good to see Oliver Fürstenhoff join the category, and hopefully we'll see him at the sharp end. For the Del Rey Racing team, in seniors, we have the German Eric Müller, who is wanting to give the Mach 1 chassis a really good showing in senior. Then there is the Japanese talent Douglas Bolger, who races in the UK predominantly, and that's where he holds his license. But the Japanese talent is still with Fusion Motorsport, and now that he has stepped up from junior to senior, we should see plenty more speed come from him. Then there is the Frenchman Guillaume Crespin, who is now racing for the kart racing Evo team with the Xperia chassis. Expect some good performances and some good pace from him. Then there is the Dutchman on the Zanardi chassis, that is Dan Steenman. So Dan Steenman wanting to be very competitive at the front, and we'd all love to see the Zanardi name on the top step of the podium again, having been one of the most successful kart brands, and of course the company founded by the former kart Champ Cars champion and it's triple, isn't it? Paralympic gold medalist Alex Zanardi, a great inspiration to all of us in the world of motor racing after he had a horrific accident at Lausitzring in 2001 in Champ Cars, and basically ended up losing both legs in the accident, in a very similar case to what we saw 2 years ago in single-seater racing with Billy Munger. And those two are actually now chatting to each other all the time. But the Zanardi brand is still very strong in the world of karting, and Dan Steenman is giving it plenty of good promotion here this weekend. Another top name we need to watch for, though, is the IAME X30 International Final, which a lot of the drivers like to refer to as winning the World Championship, if you like, for IAME X30. It's not an official World Championship, of course, but that is, as far as Alex Lloyd is concerned, the world title he wanted to take in IAME X30 at Le Mans last year, and that is Alex Lloyd for Dan Holland Racing. He is back once again for a full-scale campaign, this time as a senior rather than as a junior, and if he's as fast as he was in juniors last year, expect him to go for the victory right from the start. Then there is the Dutchman Henke Kalteren for JJ Racing. He's going to be a good competitor. And then also in the mix is one of the top youngsters from Belgium last year, Sam Balota, who was very good wherever we went in juniors for the Euro karting squad. And now that he has stepped up to the game as a senior, he, again, is going to be one of the talents we have got to keep an eye on. So that is the entirety of the field now from the qualifying practice series 3. Ravenscroft, Butcher, De Oliveira, Liedmar, Kadapik, Tinoco, Goldstein, Jarbo, Moa, Calioni, Hernandez, Powells, Moya, Hezemans, Orton, Erb, Bunchu, Fürstenhoff, Müller, Bolger, Crespin, Steenman, Lloyd, Galofre, Kalteren and Balota. I did actually forget to mention, my apologies. I was reading down the list, and for some reason, the name of Manel Golofratorna escaped my notice. I don't know why I did that. I do apologise. But he is Chaos Sports' other Spaniard, and of course, him and Philippe Vava have been working very hard together as Manel Golofra continues to raise his game. So we wish Manel Golofra good luck in this session, which is now 25 seconds old, and nobody has yet emerged from the pits. Is this going to be one of those blink and see who goes out next sort of sessions as we sit and wait for the first man to emerge from the paddock? And on this particular occasion, I can say waiting for the first man out of the pits, because I can assume it's going to be a man, because all of the female racers have already qualified from this particular category, namely Matilda Rolson, Alicia Barrett and Nina Potov. So the 26 drivers in this grid, we're going to be waiting to see which one of them goes out first. And as the first minute ticks by without a single driver leaving the pits, we could well see a similar situation where the drivers are basically doing this partly to save tyres. That's the official line that most of them like to use, but a lot of it is mind games, essentially. Out onto the circuit first, however, comes Henke Kalteren, the Dutchman, under the JJ Racing banner. He's the first one to go, and now a few others have joined him. That is the Spaniard. That is Juan Carlos Hernandez, has gone out onto the circuit. So too has Will Orton, Oliver Fürstenhoff, and Guillaume Crespin. So those guys have gone out onto the circuit. But we're still going to see the entire swarm of drivers fly out onto the circuit pretty much together, as they will all emerge in unison. When Carlos Hernandez wants to get himself into a nice queue of drivers by the look of it, as he backs out and lets them all go by. So when Carlos Hernandez will want to get himself into a good bit of track position. So will them all, of course, as they want to go for pole position. But we'll see lots of great action from the drivers as they battle away. When is the massive snake of karts going to emerge from the pits? Well, one of them's gone out, and that is the 385. That is Kobe Powell's for the CV Performance Group, the German squad. And out onto the circuit now comes the 375. That is Erbaltsmoor, and that seems to be the catalyst for them all to emerge. Yep, they're all going to come out onto the circuit together. So now the drivers are all going to join the fray. But for the record, Henke Kaltonen has set the first flying lap, and it is a 59.832. And he is the fastest of all in the first sector for the moment, which sector time of 10.9 seconds. That's pretty quick, actually. So Henke Kaltonen could be one of the surprises of this session. Going out first of all, he was the first one to go out on circuit and emerge at the sharp end. Well, we've seen that can work. Obviously, in the other senior sessions, we saw Lewis Gilbert go out as one of the first drivers on the circuit and still emerge with the pole position in the previous session. Can his time be beaten by anyone in this group? There are a few drivers you'd have to point out as potentials to do so. The likes of Ravenscroft, maybe Sean Butcher, Guillermo de Oliveira could do. Eli Goldstein's definitely a contender for that, as is Kobe Powell's. I would probably say we might get a good lap in from Leonardo Caglioni as well, the Italian. Alex Lloyd, you can't underrate him. He will be competitive. Juan Carlos Hernandez goes second fastest behind Kaltonen now. A 57.626 is now the time to beat in this session. But 57.0 is still the ultimate qualifying lap. And that comes from your man, Lewis Gilbert, who did that in the previous qualifying practice session. A 56.085 is the time for them all to beat. My apologies, not a 57.0, it's a 56.0. So the drivers still all needing to find plenty of pace before they can talk about pole position, but they're not going to get many opportunities. We've got a yellow flag, as we've got somebody off the circuit there in the middle section trying to pull their kart back onto the racing line. I can't quite see who that is, unfortunately, but we've got one not coming through. That's either Sean Butcher or I think that might be Dan Steenman. So I think that's Dan Steenman who's actually pulled off the circuit on the Zanardi chassis. That's a real shame. So Dan Steenman, by the look of it, sadly has not come through again through the first sector. And Eric Müller has not had a lap at all, so I'm not sure what's happened to the German. But that's definitely Dan Steenman going nowhere out on the circuit at the moment, having pulled off on his first flying lap. And that's a real shame for the Dutchman. He'll be devastated. So now that the fast laps are starting to come in, fastest of all is Alex Lloyd. He's done a 56.5, which is half a second away from Lewis Gilbert. But Alex Lloyd, a regular rival to Lewis Gilbert, is now battling for a chance to go for pole position in this session. Erbaltsmoor pops up to the top on a 56.4. Good run from Erbaltsmoor, and he deserves that pole position if he can keep it from this particular session. But they've still got to find another 4/10. They found at least one more from Remo Kadapik. Up to the top now comes Eli Goldstein. 56.2. A 56.2 from Eli Goldstein. Now that's going to be tough to beat because this guy knows this place very well. But it's already been beaten by Ravenscroft and Alex Lloyd. A 55.9 from Lloyd on his first major flying lap. Alex Lloyd's gone faster than everybody. Unbelievable. Alex Lloyd has smashed through the 56-second barrier on his first flying lap. Absolutely magic from Lloyd. Wow. We know who's going to be the pole position sitter. It's going to be somebody from qualifying practice series 3. But Sean Butcher's mighty close as well. He's done a 56.064. That's actually quicker than Lewis Gilbert as well. So Lloyd and Butcher are likely to be on the front row. Clayton Ravenscroft third. Not for long. Remo Kadapik's gone faster. Eli Goldstein's beaten them all. 55.897. Goldstein now goes fastest. So pole position in the seniors is definitely going to come from this group. But there's several drivers in the mix. Now it's Ruben Moyer who comes up to third. Butcher goes back to second past Alex Lloyd. So it's 55s in this group. It's definitely going to be a 55-second pole position lap now. But Eli Goldstein is fastest with 20 seconds on the clock. Goldstein fastest. Butcher second. Lloyd third. Ruben Moyer fourth. Ravenscroft is fifth from Kadapik, Caglioni, De Oliveira, Erbaltsmoor and Liam Hezemans. So the checkered flag is about to wave. Is anybody going to get another lap in? No, they are not. The checkered flag will come out just in time to receive the 375 of Erbaltsmoor, who does not go faster than 9th. Kobe Powells is outside the top 10. He'll be disappointed with that. Heikki Kaltonen likewise. Remo Katapik goes fastest. The Estonian grabs pole position. Remo Katapik gets a brilliant lap, a 55.822. Is there one more hit from Butcher or Lloyd? They come through. Ravenscroft goes to 3rd. Ravenscroft up to 3rd. Lloyd has come through. Butcher's come through. They haven't improved. So it's Remo Katapik who gets pole position in seniors. Remo Katapik, the Estonian, has done a spectacular job on his last flying lap. And it's Remo Katapik who will start from pole position in tomorrow's heats. Fantastic work. Eli Goldstein will be 2nd in this session. Clayton Ravenscroft 3rd from Sean Butcher and Alex Lloyd. And all 5 of them were able to duck under the 56-second barrier. Ruben Moya is in 6th place from Leonardo Caglioni, Juan Carlos Hernandez, Baldice Jabo, and Sam Balota. Good performances there from Caglioni, Hernandez, Jabo, particularly impressive there. Finally, the good luck comes his way for him to be top 10. And Sam Balota, then Guillermo de Oliveira, Erbaltsmoor, Liam Hezemans, Manuel Galofre, Danny Bunshu doing well there in front of Kobe Powells. And then we also got to see Sim Liedmar going well from Henki Kaltonen, Douglas Bolger, Guillaume Crespin, Will Orton, Gerard Tinoco, Matthew Erb, Oliver Furstenhoff, and then Dan Steenman and Eric Müller round out the field, although the latter two didn't really get a competitive lap time in at all. In the latter case, Eric Müller didn't set a single time. Wow, that was close in the senior brigade for pole position. Only 5 drivers in the entire senior X30 contingent able to go faster than 56 seconds. Remo Katapik, Eli Goldstein, Clayton Ravenscroft, Sean Butcher, and Alex Lloyd. And all 5 of them did so in qualifying practice series 3. So really exciting stuff from the timing sheets, but it's the Estonian on pole position, Remo Katapik. So we now have 3 of our drivers. A quick notice then to those 3. Freddie Slater of Great Britain, for Wilgot Edqvist of Sweden, and for Remo Katapik of Estonia. Those 3 drivers need to make sure that they are available for a television interview at 5:45 in the briefing room. That's 5:45 for Freddie Slater, Wilgot Edqvist, and Remo Katapik. They all need to be available in the TV briefing room, which is the media... it is the briefing room, essentially. So please make sure those 3 drivers, Freddie Slater, Wilgot Edqvist, and Remo Katapik, make their way to the briefing room after bagging pole position in qualifying. And now there's just one more session, and it's the X30 shifter category, where we see the home hero, Thierry Del Rey, bid to become European champion for the 2nd season in a row in the shifters category. Last year he emerged as champion after a thrilling season-long battle with Stendorian Peremargi of Estonia. Sadly, Peremargi, we hear, is going off to race cars. So this year it is Thierry Del Rey literally going loggerheads in the battle for supremacy with the likes of Kevin Luddy, and probably Philip Siva as well will be his closest opposition, those 3 battling for the title. But this weekend there is going to be some exciting competition, as we'll see plenty of drivers fighting for supremacy. But Thierry Del Rey, of course, emerged as last year's champion, and we'll see what he can do over the course of the weekend. In the earlier practice session, obviously the form book is very competitive in the shifters category, and they test all sorts of things. They test carb settings, they test engines, they test all sorts of things in this particular group, and it's going to be the shifter category that comes out momentarily as their session is ready to go. They've decided they want to run a little bit early than the scheduled time. So the shifters will come out onto the circuit and go straight away into qualifying. And there's 7 of them in the shifters category for the first round of the championship. Hopefully a few more will emerge in time for Castelletto at the second round of the championship. Fastest in the first qualifying non-practice this morning was Michel Bifiga. So Michel Bifiger, the Spirit Racing driver on the Cosmic chassis, he was fastest in non-qualifying practice 1 this morning with a 54.322, just a whisker faster than the Dimes Racing driver, Dionysis Leveris from Greece. So Dionysis Leveris is going to be going for a pole position with no doubt at all. Then we have a strong Belgian contingent. Thierry Del Rey, of course, European champion last year, was third fastest in the first practice session. And then it was Hellemans in fourth position for that particular team, for the DFK squad. Then it is Laurent Malisse, who was there in fifth place, and Philip Siever in sixth in front of Kevin Luddy. In the second session, it was all changed. Kevin Luddy was not last, he was first with a time of 54.207 in front of Dionysis Liveris, who was again second fastest, with Michel Bifiger third. Thierry Del Rey was fourth from Philip Siever. Then it was Hellemans in front of Laurent Malisse. So it's going to be competitive in the shifters, that is for certain. And we'll see some tough battles with Eric Hellemans in the DFK Racing squad. So the drivers are getting themselves ready for action. It's a 7-kart contingent. We were hoping to see Grégoire Corentin take part this weekend, but unfortunately the FRK driver racing on the CRG chassis was unable to make it in the end. So a bit of a shame there, unfortunately. So we'll see these 7 contenders battle for supremacy in the Shifter X30 category. Is it going to be Thierry Del Rey who re-emerges as the European champion? Or will we see the likes of Kevin Luddy, Philip Siever and Michel Bifiger, the all-international squad for Spirit Racing, based in Switzerland, these three? But Kevin Luddy, Philip Siever and Michel Bifiger are getting faster and faster as things continue in their career. And watch out for Eric Hellemans, the Belgian, who knows this place very well, of course, having raced here in various categories through the years. So he will know how to get the kart up to speed fairly quickly. And Eric Hellemans is obviously going to want to improve upon his times from earlier on, but will want to have a very competitive weekend. So far, so good, though, for Laurent Malisse. Laurent Malisse is the fastest man out on track at the moment as he starts to bound in the speed. But fastest of all in the second sector already on his first flying lap is Thierry Del Rey. So expect him to be particularly fast. Here he comes over the line. He's still adjusting things, so it's not going to be the fastest lap in history, but he comes through in a 64.007 to be provisionally fastest of all. But there's still a lot of time to shave off. The karts are going to go a good 10 seconds faster than that on their major qualifying laps. We may see a 54.9, maybe a 54.8 for qualifying. Could even go a little bit faster than that. They were doing 54.2s in practice. They're just not going to have as much time to get up to speed as that. And obviously, you don't run in the toe in quite the same way in shifters as you do in the other categories, just because they don't quite have the same safety in numbers as the other championships. But we'll still see some fast laps. Eric Hellemans gets the first major flying lap in as Eric Hellemans goes fastest in front of Dionysis Liveris. Laurent Malisse is now third from Philip Siever, Kevin Luddy and Michel Bifiger. But Thierry Del Rey is still on his flying lap, of course. So we need to see what he can do. He comes over the line. And does Thierry Del Rey goes fastest? He does. A 55.409. So on home soil, Thierry Del Rey is trying to get to Mach 1 on the Mach 1 chassis, flying around the circuit beautifully on the number 601. As the reigning European champion, Thierry Del Rey wants to open his account in fine style. So Hellemans comes over the line. Can he go fastest? Yes, he does. Eric Hellemans shadows his countryman and then eclipses him on a 54.886. So a very fast lap there indeed from Eric Hellemans. And now we're getting closer to the pole position time as Siever and Luddy are running together. The team working in formation, hoping they can assist each other to move forward. But it's now Dionysis Liveris. The Greek has gone into first position. Dionysis Liveris now goes fastest. A good performance from him. So Dionysis Liveris, who's back in the paddock again, having been a senior and a shifter racer in the past. Over the line goes Thierry Del Rey, and he's fastest again at 54.2. Wow, the same sort of pace we saw from practice then for Thierry Del Rey. And that's a brilliant lap from the Belgian. He wants to be in pole position here on his home soil and wants to get his European defence of the title off to a perfect start. He really had to fight with resilience last year to win the title. It finally came good as a package here at Mariembourg, actually. They had some problems in the first round of last year at Salbris, but even so, he was able to finish strong in second place in both the pre-final and final. And then he got his speed together again for Mariembourg, but then took victories at Wackersdorf after mechanical problems. Saw setbacks for Pirimagi, and then their famous clash, of course, last year at Castelletto, which handed the title to Thierry Del Rey. But Dionysis Liveris is now fastest in front of Kevin Luddy. Not for long. There goes Del Rey. He comes through and gets another fast lap. A 54.0 now for Thierry Del Rey and Dionysis Liveris. So they're just gapping faster and faster times now around the circuit. So it's Thierry Del Rey, then Dionysis Liveris, then it's Kevin Luddy from Eric Hellemans, Philip Siva, Michel Biviga, and Laurent Malisse. As over the line goes Eric Hellemans. He can't improve on that time for fourth place, so he remains there as Laurent Malisse comes through and gets a faster lap. It's a 55.3, so there's only 1.2 seconds from front to back, but crucially, it's not enough to improve his position. Meanwhile, Michel Biviga overtakes Eric Hellemans and Laurent Malisse to go up into fifth position as Thierry Del Rey is no longer pole position. That is now Kevin Luddy in front of Philip Siva. So they're 53.9 and 54.0 respectfully. Here comes Thierry Del Rey. Can he go faster than them again? No, he remains third on this occasion. So Thierry Del Rey is going to struggle to hold the front row of the grid here with the pace of the Spirit Racing carts. They are first and second, Kevin Luddy and Philip Siva. And they're working together, trying to find more speed and more pace. Del Rey is third. Dionysis Liveris is fourth, the Greek driver. And then it is Michel Biviga, Eric Hellemans and Laurent Malisse. Hellemans still going well in P6. Over the line, that is Laurent Malisse. Can't quite find the same sort of speed as Eric Hellemans. Over the line come the two Spirits. Luddy in front of Siva. They remain in that position, and it's Luddy on a 53.9 compared to Siva on a 54.024. Thierry Del Rey is going to come across the line momentarily. He wants to improve from a 54.088, but there's less than 0.2 of a second covering the top four as we go into the final flying lap of the session for every driver out there. Thierry Del Rey comes through and was fastest of all in the first and second sectors, but made a mistake in that third sector. He almost got pole position there, so he's improved his time to a 54.04, but he needs the perfect lap. So Thierry Del Rey is doing everything he can to get pole position on home soil. He's really working at it. But now the checkered flag is getting ready to emerge, and it will this time as Eric Hellemans and Laurent Malisse go through, and they remain in 6th and 7th place respectfully, so it's the fight for pole position. Over the line come the Spirit carts. Luddy is still pole, 53.932. Siva still second on a 54.02. Biviga comes through for 5th. What can Dionysis Liveris do? He's gone up to 2nd. Dionysis Liveris up to 2nd. Del Rey down to 4th. So it's now up to Thierry Del Rey. I don't think he can improve. He's pulled in. Thierry Del Rey pulls in at the end of the session. He clearly hasn't been able to get a faster second sector in. No, he hasn't. First and second sectors were not stronger. So Del Rey has to be content with 4th position in qualifying. And that means that pole position goes the way of Kevin Luddy. So we have 4 drivers from 4 different nations in the 4 categories on pole position. So, can we please remember, drivers, we're asking for the pole position sitters. That is Freddie Slater of Great Britain, Wilgot Edqvist of Sweden. Also to have the pole position sitter from the senior contingent. Apologies, I was given a notice at the wrong time there. So can we please have the 4 drivers from qualifying practice who got pole position? Freddie Slater of Great Britain, Wilgot Edqvist of Sweden, and also, of course, Rimo Kadapik of Estonia and Kevin Luddy of Switzerland. Will those 4 please head to the briefing room at 5:45 for their television interviews? So a fantastic qualifying practice here from Mariembourg. It's been absolutely fascinating to watch. We've seen some great qualifying sessions, and we're going to see 33 brilliant races over the course of the next 2 days. It's going to be fantastic. Hope you can join us at 9 o'clock in the morning on the live stream if you're watching in Great Britain. And, of course, 10 o'clock local time if you are trackside here at Mariembourg. I'm Jake Sanson. We'll see you again for some more great action. Don't forget to join us if you're trackside here for our social gathering at 6 o'clock upstairs in the cafeteria. Our pole position drivers, please head to the briefing room at 5:45 for the pole position interviews. But we are going to have an amazing downtime ready for race action tomorrow for the first of 22 heats around this Mariembourg circuit. I'm Jake Sanson. See you tomorrow.
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
Let me drive.
I'll make a fool out of you. Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy, lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
Somebody put it in your mind you're gonna be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up? Are you ready to make more money in 1 year than your father made in his whole life? Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
I mean, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? Come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Fine. Then let's race.